We're gonna have a good old Rob to talk through all this. Two. Check, two. Hello. Perfect Speller, thanks for the 10 months. Thank you, Brightbox Media. I do like this shirt. I've decided now, like, I was just, like, walking outside in this outfit with my little green shorts and my watermelon shirt and my hat and my flats and stuff. And I was like, my style really now is, like, undercover cop that's trying to look inconspicuous, you know, that's like, oh, I'm just on vacation, don't look at me, don't pay attention to anything I'm doing, I'm just here, I'm a tourist. That's kind of what it is. It's like in So I Married an Axe Murderer. What do you mean I look hip? No, you look like an undercover cop that's trying to look hip. I am an undercover cop that's trying to look hip. Anyway, it is called In Your 40s. Well, that was my whole thing, Brightbox Media. I noticed that it was getting to summer every year, and I was just wearing t-shirts and shorts and like a hat and sneakers, and I felt like I was 5 years old. You know what I mean? I felt like, why am I dressing like this? I'm dressing like John Cena here. I'm too old for this. I gotta update my style for these months, these summer months. I got to figure some different stuff out, and that's what I did. I just heard a clip of Norm Finkelstein talking about gooning. This is not a joke. I know it's not a joke. Literally, what is really not a joke is that I learned about the concept of gooning from that clip. I did not even know that. I had never heard that term. And I heard it from Norman Finkelstein. Did he put on some Après-Soleil treatment? I suggest getting a bottle of drugstore brand aloe gel. I'm fine. Listen, I've had many sunburns in my life. I'm not sunburned. I'm totally okay. I got no sunburn. I did pick up some like actual sunscreen though to start putting on. So if everyone's gonna hassle me about it, okay. The next time I go out and get some sun, I will put on some sunscreen, okay? Are you happy? Fine. I've never heard of gooning before. Assertions of people asking a lot of questions already answered by my assertions. Listen, okay? Back in my day, it was just called jacking off, all right? We didn't have any of this fancy stuff, all this whole lifestyle built around it. We didn't have that. Does Canada have sun? Yes, especially right now. Maybe not as much today. It's pretty cloudy today, but yesterday and the day before, barely any clouds, very, very hot. And I went out and I got a little chair for my patio, which gets blasted by sun every single day. So I went out there and have been getting some sun out there. And everyone's lambasting me in the chat for not taking my UV protection seriously. Wonder if those bad storms that just hit Chicago were just heading your way today. I don't know. We did get a little bit of lightning last night. I don't know if it's still coming our way. My day, we just had the lingerie section of the Hudson's catalog and we made it work. Sears catalog. Oh, you can tell it did a bit of a number on my voice just talking so much yesterday. I'm just not used to it. I forgot how, like, not just mentally draining, but physically draining it is to do this, you know? I get into this routine where I just do this show every day, 3-4 hours a day, and I just don't really think about it. And then when you're away from it, you try to go back and it's like, wow, this is like not the easiest thing. You know what I mean? was all dizzy. I was all dizzy yesterday from staring at the screen for 4 fucking hours. I'm on your side, Rob. Humans survived for thousands of years without sunscreen. Well, that's true, but I'm sure these earlier humans also died of...
You can count on me. You're going to have good old Rob
skin cancer.
To talk you through all this.
But they just thought it was like
TRRS
demons or
friendship
something.
Triangle.
They thought they didn't do a proper like harvest ritual, and they didn't know that that's what it was. Look what I've got today. I got a C4. What is the world coming to? I got a C4 today. At the depanneur next to me, one of their freezers seems to be broken, and it was the freezer that usually contained all the Monster and Rain, and they haven't been able to get it fixed yet. And now I'm having all these backbencher energy beverages. Streamers drink water challenge. I drink water all the time. Okay? I fill up a little pitcher, I put it in my fridge, ice cold. I drink at least one of those per day. This is the limeade, yes. This is the limeade one. I'm going to give it a taste right now. Okay. It is good. It says twisted lime. Not booze in this, is there? That would be funny. No. That would be funny if I inadvertently got absolutely blasted at 12:30 p.m. No, it's pretty good. I think I prefer the Rain limeade flavor, the cherry limeade, but this is quite nice. Very refreshing. Oh, and thank you, Bon Bon, for the 34 months. Thanks, Bon Bon. I appreciate it. Oh, that's nice. How are you all doing? It was fun to be back yesterday, wasn't it? It's kind of fun. Kind of fun that the show's back, isn't it, chat? Dr. Awesome's drinking a C4 as well. Got a case for cheap. Very nice. It's pretty good, honestly. I don't get it very often, but it's pretty good. And we got lots to talk about again today, folks. It's America Decline season. I think now, actually, I have tried at my utmost to completely ignore this election for most of the last year. Right? I think we have no choice now but to pivot into some America Declines coverage. What are we? 3 months away from the most important election of your lives, folks. I think we're going to have to start taking this a little bit more seriously now. I hate to tell you. It's insane how much it's amped up. Oh, it's amped up, all right. I would say so, yeah. We actually had a good conversation with Dave Anthony about it on the Insurgents podcast last night, which I recommend people checking out. We're arresting BB in DC next week. We're making a day of it. Is Netanyahu still going to go address Congress? Like, is that actually happening? That is insane to me. That is insane. Hello, Comrade Bushy. What's up? Jesus. These people are just shameless. The entire elite power structure, both parties and all these folks.
To talk you through all this.
Ground level news. Thanks for the Prime. 14 months of Prime. Thank you. Is he going to a Trump rally after? I mean, he might as well. He's basically openly campaigning for Trump already. He might as well. Trump, who of course is going to stop the wars. These fucking anti-Israel grifters now circling around Trump. He's going to stop the wars. Jesus Christ, these people. We're doing a citizen's arrest? Good. I hope you do arrest him. They're having, after a week of condemning political violence, we're against all kinds of political violence. Do you understand? That's why we're inviting Benjamin Netanyahu to come to Congress and talk to us. Well, please, sir, will you grace us with your presence, sir? That's how much we're against political violence. That's how much we're repulsed. We're repulsed by the idea of political violence. You laugh, but pretty sure Biden's going to give him a cold handshake at the airport. That'll teach him. Yeah, exactly. He's only going to give the handshake. He's not going to go all the way in with the dap and back pat. That's how serious this has gotten. That's how serious this has gotten, folks. He's not going to give the full dap. It's just going to be a little handshake. We say that, but we know we know Brandon's going to give him a nice big hug. We know that. In spite of everything. A firm handshake to let him know the red line still exists. That's right. We're watching you. As soon as you actually have an actual operation in Rafah, beyond just dropping bombs on people sleeping in tents, we're going to get serious about this, sir. The big 2 arms, not a chest out, and 2 back bump. Yeah, no, it's going to be real shit. Bibi coming to campaign for Trump and Joe there to massage him on the tarmac. These are the political geniuses that are running this campaign. I don't know, man. I just don't know. I mean, it might just be total cope. It might be. But imagine how much it would change the entire dynamic of the campaign if Kamala did take over and just said, we're cutting off Israel. We're cutting off the weapons. How that would completely shift the entire dynamic. Probably will not happen, of course. I'm sure Kamala will take over. She'll have a nicer tone, and then it's going to be the exact same Anthony Blinken policy about the whole thing. I would love to see it, though. I would love to be proved wrong by Mamala. I would be happy to be wrong about it. I would love for Kamala to become the president and then say they're cut off. We're making a break with what the strategy's been. It hasn't worked. You think money grows in a coconut tree, BB? Kamala will personally put the cuffs on BB. Yeah, well, it'd be nice. It would be nice, wouldn't it? She was playing the long game. The longest game. That's right. Her father, her Marxist father. This was put in place years ago, before she was even born. It's like the Bene Gesserit, the Marxist academic Bene Gesserit. They say we deal in generations. We deal in centuries. Plans within plans. We put two Marxists, 2 covert Marxists, Pete Buttigieg and Kamala Harris. They're right there, ready to seize power. They're gonna raise the Soviet flag outside the White House. Once Order 66 is called for, the Marxist sleeper agents. Boy, is there going to be egg on our face. Can you imagine? Can you imagine? I would be happy to apologize for being wrong. Believe me. I would be happy. I would be like, they got me. I was wrong. I didn't trust the plan. I was not familiar with your game. I will happily admit that. I don't think it's going to happen though, unfortunately. And then Trudeau as well. Trudeau is in place as well. He's been in place for almost almost a decade, waiting for the contradictions to heighten, and in fact heightening the contradictions himself. Fidel's dream. He's carrying on Fidel's legacy, Fidel's dream. He's right there when the moment comes. Patriots are in control. I love it. I love it. It is fun to pretend. It is, yeah. You can just be silly with it sometimes, you know? We don't have a lot to hang on to. Trudeau's just sitting there waiting for someone to whisper Ortsak Ledif in his ear. I think that's like a Dune reference that's too much of a deep cut for me to remember. I thought it was generational revenge of welfare queens for Rodney King. Well, or that too. Oh, it's Fidel Castro backwards. Okay, there we go. I see. It's like a scene out of like a David Lynch movie. He starts speaking Spanish. He puts on the little military fatigues. Ortsak Ledif. Ortsak Ledif. On my worst, Pierre Polyev has been arrested. It would be, God, that would be so funny. Oh boy, would we ever be embarrassed? We didn't believe. We didn't trust the plan. We failed to trust the plan, folks. That's what we get. We look foolish. Pierre raised his fist. Let's fight. Just arresting every single newspaper columnist in this country. Get in the truck, buddy. You're gonna go learn how to be a productive member of society under the Trudeau regime. The Trudeau junta. Andrew Coyne has been placed under house arrest. That would be one of my first acts if it was me. That's like number one. Going out into the Ontario suburban sprawl, just grabbing all the small business owners, going into Vaughan, Ontario, just snatch up all the small business owners. You're coming with me, sir. Vaughan indeed. My brother lived in Vaughan for quite some time, and it seemed really miserable. Their house was very nice, but it seemed really not good. I would love to run a re-education camp. Absolutely. Imagine being able to snitch on your boss and your landlord and your neighbors to the secret police. That must have felt so good. Well, you shouldn't have been counter-revolutionary. I don't know. What do you want me to tell you? You should have listened to instructions. They specifically said not to be counter-revolutionary, and then look at you. Look at what you're doing. Your 20-foot boat has been repurposed to house refugees, sir. Yeah, it's law and order, exactly. Absolutely. Tech bros in work camps, yes please. Yeah, you could plant trees, you could like build railroads, you can actually contribute to society, you know. You can do something worthwhile for once in your worthless life. You can be part of a national project of I can't pronounce this word. Rejuvenation. A national project of rejuvenation. Pick up trash. Yeah, go and mow the lawns at the parks. Whatever it is. Your Etobicoke BBQ restaurant's getting converted to a community kitchen. One day we'll get there, chat. One day. One day we'll get there. And Canada's Wonderland. That reminds me how Canada has always been deeply racist, like we know this. But the panic that's coming from the people that now feel their racial supremacy kind of being slipping away. The amount of anti-Indian racism that's totally normalized. It's actually crazy. Like you go on just look at viral posts on conservative Canadian TikTok or Twitter or whatever. Just like a picture of Indian people at Costco or in a public pool or whatever. Thousands of likes. People just being like, this is my country now. Just people just living their lives. Just Indian people just existing. It's actually crazy. Canada has been such a mask off, you know? Rejuvenation. I at least got it after 2 attempts there, Genki. I always want to put an ifica, like a rejuvenification or something, but that's not what it is. The rise in global racism is astounding. Fascism really gaining. Yeah, and this is what you have. It's when you combine people's declining material conditions, increasing prices of housing and groceries, and combined with mass immigration, and everyone just turns against each other in a society where every semblance of social solidarity and community has just been stripped away. So everyone's life is getting worse, and because we have this completely propagandized population that's trained to do everything other than point the finger upwards, that's what you get. We need to talk about the disturbing rise of anti-Semitism. Then we need to talk about the unwashed Islamic hordes trying to infiltrate their way into our beautiful and pure Western culture. Exactly. Well, and that's really what, that's what the Zionist project is. That's what it is. It's the outermost regions of the West defending all our Western values from these hordes. That's ultimately fundamentally what it comes down to. Not about any specific religion or anything like that. That's all just kind of a window dressing for it. Did you ever listen to the Trojan Horse Story podcast about systemic Indian racism in British schools? No, I didn't. It sounds unsurprising. The idea of like anti-Indian racism in Britain is crazy to me. Or just all the obsession with immigrants. The fucking British. The British are complaining about other people and other cultures coming into their nation.
Some guy, Rob Russo, some leftist
The British.
based in Canada. I was turned on to this sick individual, and I found this.
Marcus, hello. Left flank vets, Raiders, hello. What is up? Welcome. It's me, Rob Rousseau. It's nice to see you. Thank you for joining the stream. Please smash the follow button if you're not already following the channel. Thanks for joining. Thank you for rating in. How was the Left Flank Vets stream today? Thank you for complimenting my shirt. We're just making fun of the British. Does anyone want to join in? We're talking about the audacity of the British complaining about people immigrating to their country. Still just normal and quiet here in the US. I'll let you know if anything weird goes on. Good, thank you. I'm tired of all this, like, slow news day business. You know? When is anything going to happen? She was complaining how it's going to change the neighborhood. Yeah, and like Old Dutch, is this like a recent immigrant? It's amazing how few generations you have to live in this country to be able to complain about like these demographic changes, you know? Even if you just immigrated here yourself. Nothing ever happens. I gotta say, nothing ever happens squad has been getting a little humbled lately, I think. Not recent, but her parents were immigrants. Okay, yeah, so first generation. First generation immigrant complaining about the changing demographics of Canada or her home country. Like, Jesus. But they did it the wrong way. A person whose parent was an ambassador. Yeah, their ancestors just like got off a boat. They're just like, hey, welcome, come on in. Here's your identity. You know? Welcome to the country.
You can count on me. You're going to have good old Rob to talk you through all this.
Now build a railroad.
That's it. Dude Control, thank you for the prime. I appreciate it. And if anyone does want to support this show, I did just take a little vacation. I was off for 3 weeks, which is like if you're a Twitch streamer, as your primary form of income is not really a great thing to do. Because it becomes gamified to never take time off and never do anything other than continue showing up and making the little number at the bottom of the screen going up. But if you want to support this program, I'm back now here doing the show full time. I'm in a deep hole. You pretty much nuked your account and starting from scratch. Not entirely, but literally like it's close to being that. Like I was saying yesterday, I was spending time with my son, who I love very much. He's going to be 8 years old, in the summer, one time in his life, and then it's gone forever. So I took time off. I was like, fuck it. I'm just not going to worry about this. I'm not going to think about my subs. You know, I'm not going to like be spending time when I'm supposed to be enjoying myself, worrying about Twitch subs. You know, the Twitch Corporation will be just fine. But now that I am back though, if you want to please help me climb out of the hole that I am now in by supporting this program, by subscribing, gifting subs or bits or whatever it is. Every little bit is very much appreciated. I've got to climb my way out of this deep pit that I'm in, and I can only do that with your help, chat. Of waking up in the middle of the night in a cold sweat, shouting, "My slubs!" Exactly. Like, you just can't. You can't allow yourself to. Why just never take any time off? Just do this every single day. Why not? Don't take time to yourself. Don't take time for your family.
You've
It's
just
not good.
become an elite member of the Friendship Triangle.
Comrade Bushy, thank you very much for the 5 gifted subs. That's very kind of you, and I really appreciate that a whole lot and all the support. And thank you again, everyone, for tuning in. And it was a very warm welcome back to Twitch for me yesterday, and I appreciate that a lot. All day, every day must be Hassan. I commend Hassan for being able to keep up that pace. I mean, maybe if there was that amount of money involved, maybe I would have an easier time doing that. Maybe, but even that, I mean, it's just a grind. It's just, even if you're making millions of dollars, like that's physically and mentally draining to be on that much every single day. Like, either way, it's wild for sure. I would definitely have an easier time figuring it out. If I was getting that Hassan money or anywhere approaching that. Rose in Croatia on a remote island complaining to hotel ladies they didn't have good enough Wi-Fi. Hassan streaming on vacation kind of bums me out. I mean, certainly it can't be sustainable. It just really can't be. Like, God, you gotta take some time off. You have to. But kudos to him. Kudos to Hassan for doing it. They got something on. He can't stop streaming. It's like The Simpsons with Smithers and Tom Jones. Keep smiling. Everybody's happy. If he thinks about only streaming 6 hours a day, he gets the little red dot shows up. Oh, shit. You're saying people whose entire lives are streaming experience mental health repercussions. It certainly seems that way. Yeah. I mean, I've absolutely experienced mental health repercussions just from the amount of streaming that I've done, which is a lot, but not a lot like that. How much have I... Yeah, I mean, I've over 2,000 hours. I mean, that's significant. And I passed the 2,000 hours quite some time ago now. Almost a year ago. I've seen it happen, but not to me because I'm built different. Well, yeah, me too, of course. I would never have a mental breakdown. I'm too powerful. So I don't know. All that is to say that I am in a deep hole. So I will be here for another 3-4 hours today. And if people want to subscribe and support the show, help me make the little number go up. It was painful making the number go back down today. Oh boy. That's the most painful streaming thing to me. Every day just going, Go right back down to 0, baby. The influence of propaganda or pits of despair just aren't that interesting to me. More into rising and grinding. Thank you. I'm about that lifestyle. You should have carried over any subs after 50. Unfortunately, that's not how it works. Unfortunately, that's just not the way she goes. Especially when I just took a bunch of time off. Anyway. We don't need to keep on this inside baseball tip. I think the main takeaway is that I'm extremely mentally healthy and doing very well. I think that if there's a takeaway from anything that I've said in the last 5-10 minutes, that would be it. That would be the main lesson.
You can count on me. You're going to have good old Rob to talk you through all this.
Skin to rub.
Take care, Marcus. Thanks again for the raid. And thank you, Gwynny, as well, for the 33 months, Tier 1. I appreciate that. Thank you. Well, I guess we should get probably into the America declines, right? That's what we're doing the news. We got a raid, we got chatters here, we got people. I guess let's get into it. We got a Trump speech to look at. We got a disastrous Biden interview to look at. They keep thinking showing Joe more will help the problem, but it is the problem. Exactly. Just keep trotting this guy out. Show that he can answer basic questions. Show that he can act like a normal person. Show that he's capable of like basic motor functions, and everyone's going to be reassured. I just feel like that ship has sailed. You know, like I think the debate was just the nail in the coffin for that. That's all. That's Biden's legacy now. That's his campaign. They can keep putting him out there. They can cover him in bronzer. They can give him a new haircut. They can give him more Botox. They can pump him full of Adderall or whatever the fuck it is. But ultimately, that's what a lot of people are going to remember. Along with all of the leaks that have come out. All of the leaks that have come out about how this is not just this isolated incident. It wasn't just a bad night. It wasn't a bad debate. Hello, Dane. It was a stutter. It was a stutter. I had a cold. I traveled into 3 different time zones like 12 days before, and I still hadn't recovered from it. Oh, that's good. I had jet lag from the weeks ago. Still. What do you think about this new light too? Because I put a different light here. I got like one of these more. I'm trying to up the bisexual quotient here. What do we think about this? Even more zoomery. I love it, but I'm afraid it says more about me than I want to admit. It's fine. It's fine. You're fine. You're okay. Nothing wrong with it. Thank you, Spaceman. I appreciate the positive shirt comments. Okay, let's see where to start. Hunter being back in the admin is also reassuring. Yeah, it's great that he's the one that's like determining what they do here. Why not? I saw some people speculate. Let's start here, okay? I would vote for Hunter Biden because I would have American brainworms and vote for the guy I would do lots of drugs with. It's like the slightly different version of I would have a beer with him. Like that's why Bush won and everything. I could have a beer with that guy. I could do a bunch of crack with that guy, you know? That's how I'm going to make my judgment here. They're not beating the Biden is dead allegations by continuing to show him with less hair than an alive person would have in trouble forming sentences. This is what I mean. They're so delusional. They think that you can just spray bronzer on him and give him a haircut and give him Botox and inject him with vitamin B12 in his dick or whatever it is they're doing. I don't know. But like that's not the problem. You can make this man. You can dress up this corpse to look like an alive person, but you're not fundamentally changing anything about the equation here. In fact, you're even making it more obvious in many ways. Well, let's start here though. We talked a lot about the picture from Trump's assassination attempt. My question is, does his little ear bandage here, does it negate that? Are they really trying to benefit from this or take advantage of this in the way that we thought they were going to?
President of the United States, Donald J. Trump.
Put on elf ears, just give it a little band-aid, you know? This is giving Bobby Heenan with the neck brace, I think. The big bandage. Cool J, you know I was going to put that one on next. God, this is really one of the worst songs ever recorded. this live or is this? Are they playing the song? Do they actually have the band doing this? God, it's so bad. Oh my goodness. Little pitchy dog.
We are here tonight in one purpose, and that is to elect Donald J. Trump as the next president of the United States.
Barely even looks at Don Jr. Don Jr.'s like, this is my time to shine. Trump's shaking his hand like it's some like business associate that he met one time in 1997. They're just barely acknowledging him. Yeah, Don, get out of here. Where's Barron? Don Jr.'s like, this is the proudest moment of my life. This is the proudest moment of my life. My dad loves me. He's just like, who even is this? I don't even know who this is. The thumbs up. Yeah, exactly. Like, who do you think you're talking to here? At some point, Don Jr. is going to turn on him and it's going to be epic. It would be great if Don Jr. did eventually pull a Kendall Roy. Imagine if Don Jr. did like a woke rebrand. That would actually be very funny. Barron's so stupid he thought Don was dead when the old skinny comedy lady beheaded him. His mommy said so. Yeah, it's like, come on, kid. Never seen a fake head before? It's a movie. You never seen a movie? Movie magic, Barron. You see it on YouTube all the time, probably. Don Jr. is the Seth Rollins to Don's Roman Reigns and Eric's Dean Ambrose. I'll allow it, I guess. I don't know if that totally tracks, but let's just move on. Anyway, I just think that's funny. Yeah, whatever, Don.
To elect Donald J. Trump as the next president of the United States.
Thumbs up. Gives the thumbs up to the dad.
He is here tonight to show his courage, his defiance against somebody
JD Vance, this weird fucking creep.
You will not take this man down.
This is one thing that, I talked about a little bit last night in the podcast. This is not unbeatable. This idea that Trump is like inevitable, it's entirely because of the failures of Joe Biden. JD Vance is a weird fucking creep who stands for a bunch of deeply unpopular things, especially when it comes to abortion, women's rights. He's a recent Catholic convert. Like, what the fuck? Like, I'm sorry, I don't mean to insult anyone's religion, but like, I don't know about these adult Catholic converts. Like, what the fuck? What is up with that? These people are not inevitable. Like, they're imminently beatable. The idea that the Democrats might be poised to lose to this ticket in a landslide is just an absolute disgrace. Like, it's just humiliating. It's embarrassing. These guys are about to hand them their fucking asses. They're not popular. They don't stand for popular things. They stand for all kinds of things that are deeply unpopular. What is the problem? They don't even like each other. Like, it's absolutely pathetic that they're getting their fucking asses handed to them by these people.
He has the courage, the strength, and he will be the next president of the United States. From the lakes of Minnesota to the hills of Tennessee, across
It's
the
so
plains of
bad.
Texas.
Mediocre.
From sea to shining sea.
They put a giant pad on his ear with tape. It's so bizarre, honestly.
And soon to be the 47th President of the United States, please welcome Donald J. Trump. Oh, and I'm proud to be an American, where at least I know I'm free. And I won't forget the men who died, who gave that right to me. And I gladly stand up next to you.
No one's singing in the audience.
Today, 'cause there ain't no doubt I love this land.
Oh boy. Buddy, come on. Thinking about all the dudes with the backwards hats and blue mirrored sunglasses crying to this song. It's so bad. Like, this is like America. Like, that's America's so bizarre because nationalism is such a big part of the American identity. They can't even do that right. This is what you have. Look at the fucking North Koreans. They put you to shame with their fucking like the anthem and like the doing the Internationale and the big choirs and bands and parades and stuff. Like, fucking get on their level, or the Chinese as well. They do this shit so much better. He'd nailed it. At least I know I'm free. And I'm proud to be an American. At least I know I'm free. I'm sorry. I'm sorry you had to listen to that. That was intentionally bad. That was not unintentionally bad. That was intentionally not good. Just FYI. Next karaoke song, yeah. Yeah, this was a fantastic Justin Wang edit on this. It's so perfect. That old Raw theme was very good. It's true. Oh, real bad. Anyways, I feel like they're not capitalizing. I feel like politically, it's kind of tricky for them to talk about this assassination attempt. Surely they know if all the information about this kid's phone analysis hasn't come out, I'm sure they're getting wind that the news doesn't make them look great, and that the whole thing is an example of the climate that they themselves have created and encouraged. So they can't really capitalize. Like, we saw that image, and you imagine them capitalizing off it, like it's the Reichstag fire or whatever, but that does not seem to be happening, you know? The government doesn't want you to know what the Americans at the rally are free. You can just take one home. Nobody will stop you. There's no law against it. You can just put one of those guys in your car or truck. You live with me now. Stick with us, folks, because in just a minute we're going to hear, ah, ah. I hate that King scream. Oh, gosh. What else do we got here about Trump? Should we look at this speech, I guess? I don't know. I don't know if I can do the whole thing. I don't know if I can do the whole thing, but let's maybe check it out. Let's see what this, like, unstoppable juggernaut is saying. Looking for I see the entrance. Did he speak last night or did he just come out? Oh, I guess. Okay, so it was just his entrance and he's speaking on the last night. Is that right? Do I have that right? I thought he like actually said something. The Teamsters guy spoke. Oh, that's great. Can we get some upbeat background music? Well, not right now because I'm going to be putting on more clips and stuff. They need him to get the hogs to watch. That's right, just having the entrance. Okay, that's okay. I understand now. I think it's probably worth looking at some of this like JD Vance stuff. I mean, we can talk. I think we should talk about how he has this whole like faux populist thing. You know, the hillbilly elegy element. You know, really elevated that. He's some like working class whisperer, while spending his entire career devoting it to like getting political power to destroy labor unions, to destroy the social safety net. But like a guy like JD Vance promotes this idea. Like I think I really do understand the choice. I think there's a real connection with Trump's first campaign, which was like Steve Bannon, I think was largely responsible for this like forgotten man. You know, Trump speaking to this forgotten man that's been left behind by both parties. I can see how, even though it's total bullshit, you know, and JD Vance is like an elite, like when you go to Yale, Peter Thiel funded dipshit. His inclusion kind of promotes this idea about the white working class, right? Not just like not the way the working class in general has been fucked over, but specifically the white working class that have seen these communities decimated by deindustrialization and drug addiction, things like this, and then trying to segregate that, trying to like speak specifically to theirs. Not even their real grievances, but like their racial grievances. Like I was talking about earlier with the immigration situation in Canada and the rise in racism that we're seeing here as a result. But also I've seen people, because I think JD Vance is one of those people that he's a working class LARPer, and a day of manual labor will turn him into dust. Yeah, for sure. He's a soft-handed fellow, I would say. That JD Vance. I think that a couple people have pointed to.
You're gonna have good old Rob to talk you through all this.
All hail Father Rob. It's a cult, but upside down. The Assembly of Children are the true leaders of the revolution.
Hell yeah. Thank you, Comradeski, for the 11 months of Tier 1. Thank you, I appreciate it. But I think there was a few people pointing to statements that JD Vance has made about Ukraine, where I think JD Vance articulates a sort of analysis of Russia and the Ukraine conflict that might be somewhat in line with the way that we talk about it. But this idea that he's going to be some like force for stopping the wars, like again, fully supportive of Israel, extremely anti-China, and as you know, Iran as well has talked about wanting to bomb Iran and escalate against Iran as well. So he has this kind of faux credibility of being some kind of like voice of reason for foreign policy because of Ukraine specifically, but on no other subject does he come remotely close to having any kind of like consistency. And that's the strategy. That's the Trump strategy. I was reading something about this today, and this is something that we can get into. But that's their whole strategy, it's the reverse Nixon Kissinger thing. That's what the Trump faction of the conservative movement wants to do. They want to repair relationships with Russia. They want to split apart this relationship and partnership that China and Russia now have, because they recognize correctly that represents a huge threat to their interests and a huge threat to U.S. and Western hegemony. This increasingly unshakable diplomatic tie and economic and cultural tie between Russia and China, and it's not going to work. I think that ship has sailed, but I think that's the strategy. You've got the liberal Democrat faction of the establishment that's like, no, let's take on Russia and China at the same time, which is hopeless. But you have the Trump faction of the ruling class as well, and they're like, we need to repair ties with Putin, need to repair ties with Russia. We need to split apart this Russian-Chinese alliance because that's a real threat, and they're correct to analyze it in that way. It is a threat, but that's the problem, is that ship has sailed, and that's not going to happen either. But I think we should keep that in mind whenever these fucking people talk about Trump or J.D. Vance as if they're voices of reason in foreign policy. Or that they're going to end the wars, you know? I saw that's what Jackson Hinkle was saying, you know? If you try to end the wars, they're going to come after you. With zero fucking evidence that Trump has any interest in that whatsoever. You know? I was like, Jackson Hinkle is really like, the shamelessness of his grift is actually quite incredible. Because he had, on like the same day, like appeals to this like Trump movement. Oh, he's trying to end the wars and they're trying to stop him. And then literally the same day, he's like, your new vice president and president, and shows them like in Israel at the Wailing Wall or whatever. It's so shameless. It's literally taking like different positions about things within the same day. That's a master grifter at work, you know? The new Ben Norton video is exactly on this topic if you need something to watch at some point. That sounds like a great idea, actually. I think we should watch that because I think this is a really important angle to this, especially when people start trying to give people like Donald Trump or J.D. Vance credit for taking some kind of like anti-war stance. They're not anti-war stance. They just have a little bit of a slightly different strategy. You know? A slightly different strategy from the neoliberal side of the ruling class, the neoliberal faction. And both of them are hopeless, I think. That like this whole alliance, this diplomatic and cultural and economic relationship with Russia and China, it's there now. It's not going away. They're not going to split up again. You know, America blew it. They had split. They caused or contributed to the Sino-Soviet split. They had everything sewn up. Kissinger, no matter what you want to say about him, one of the world's most horrifying war criminals. Couldn't agree more. But diplomatically, knew what he was doing. Diplomatically was trying to maintain U.S. hegemony and was very successful in that. And causing the Sino-Soviet split was the ultimate example. That was a massive victory. That was a massive victory for, the West and America. And they've in 30 years they blew it. In 30 years they pushed these two great powers right back together, you know, and they have no one to blame but themselves. And if people like J.D. Vance or Trump want to try to undo that now, well, it's too late. It's too late for that now. It's not. They're not going to split up again. It's not going to happen. So we can look at some of this like J.D. Vance business. Like here he is talking about Iran. I want to point this out because when people start making these arguments about these guys, how they could, well, you know, they have this, they're right on foreign policy. Maybe on Ukraine, they might say things similar, like, and Jackson Hinkle says stuff about Ukraine sometimes that I agree with, but that doesn't mean that these people are like ideological allies in any way.
A lot of people recognize that we need to do something with Iran, but not these weak little bombing runs. If you're going to punch the Iranians, you punch them hard, and that's what he did when he took out Soleimani. By the way, that action, people said that it would lead to broader war. It actually brought peace. It actually checked the Iranians and slowed them down a little bit. But let me just say something about this Iran issue. Because
they slowed. Was he talking about the assassination of Soleimani? I missed the beginning.
a lot of people recognize that we need to do something with Iran, but not these weak little bombing runs. If you're going to punch the Iranians, you punch them hard, and that's what he did when he took out Soleimani. By the way, that action, people said that it would lead to broader war. It actually brought peace. It actually checked the Iranians and slowed them down a little bit.
It checked the Iranians and slowed them down from fighting ISIS, which is what Soleimani was doing, training militias in Syria and Iraq to fight these like Salafist extremist groups. Yeah, it checked them and slowed them down in their ability to do that, in addition to supporting, the Palestinian resistance and Yemen as well. That's amazing, though. It really checked Iran and their ability to fight ISIS.
But let me just say something about this Iran issue.
But don't say that there's a connection between ISIS and Israel or the United States government. Don't do that, though. Oh boy, you'll get in trouble.
If you want to check Iran, the way to do it is to, one, withdraw their oil money, which of course Joe Biden's been bad about, but you've also got to enable the Israelis and the Sunni Arab states to work together and actually provide a counterbalance to Iran. Joe Biden has done nothing. You have
This guy's such a gross little worm. Look at this guy.
to weaken Iran, to strengthen our
You're gonna lose to this guy, really?
nothing with it. Donald Trump would reinvigorate it. I think one
You're gonna lose to this guy. This little worm. And here he is on Ukraine.
country. And I think it's ridiculous that we're focused on this border in Ukraine. I got to be honest with you. I don't really care what happens to Ukraine one way or another country. And I think it's ridiculous.
And this is a secondary question. Does this guy wear guyliner? And listen, no judgment if he does. If you want to wear eyeliner, that's fine. It really does seem like he does, though, doesn't it? Worst case scenario is that they win and Don passes away because he's also old AF. And that's the whole thing. It's like, this guy is an extremist. When you look at his views about women's rights, abortion, he wants to enforce this kind of strict religious conservative morality. It's extreme. It's extremist and deeply unpopular. He does. He just wears too much. His eyes are too hooded for that much. If the hair had a little bit of length and you had the swoop, if there was a bit more of a swoop, maybe give him a lip ring or something.
If we focus on East Asia, if we focus on containing the Chinese, the Europeans can step up in Europe. Germany still, after Donald Trump demanded it, still doesn't spend 2% of GDP on defense. A lot of the NATO countries have allowed their own industrial might to atrophy. So why are Americans subsidizing European security? We should be focused on our own problems, and that's mostly China. You have to ask yourself, is China going to be more dissuaded by us thumping our chest and acting tough in Europe, or are they going to be more dissuaded by us having the weapons necessary to prevent them from invading Taiwan?
Yes,
My
the
argument
anti-war.
is the Chinese are focused on real
The anti-war
power.
choice.
They're not focused on how tough people talk on TV or how strong our alleged resolve is. They're focused on how strong we actually are. And to be strong enough to push back against the Chinese, we've got to focus there. And right now, we're stretched too thin. And the reality is, the Ukrainians have showed that Putin is a lot weaker than people feared. And importantly, they've shown that if the Europeans are willing to step up and take more responsibility for their own defense, they can handle Putin. Let us focus on China.
Okay, this new aid package, which you voted against,
Sure.
also includes aid for Israel, which you were clearly for.
Yep.
We've got a new video out with a couple of hostages. One of them is an Israeli American. Do you feel like this administration is doing the wisest, the best, the most that it can to get all hostages released?
No, I don't, Shannon. Look, if you want to get these hostages released, you've got to, first of all, enable Israel to actually finish the job. And second of all, put America's diplomatic weight.
Identical language to what Netanyahu said in that video. Let us finish the job. Let us finish the job. Using the exact same language. Exact same talking point.
Finish the job. And second of all, put America's diplomatic weight behind and on Hamas, right? Pressure Hamas to release these hostages. Don't use America's
That's what all the
diplomatic leverage
massacres of
to
civilians are
effectively
supposed to have been
cause the
doing,
Israelis
sir.
to pull back here.
That the White House has supported unconditionally. That's what all the civilian massacres has been supposed to be, put pressure on Hamas. I mean, it's Netanyahu's government that's saying no to these hostage deals that have been proposed time and time again. So, like, those are your guys. Like, talk to your people, sir. Yeah. So, yeah, if anyone thinks that maybe because he makes some kind of comment about Ukraine or acts like he's maybe sometimes sounds like he's talking sense when he comes to that, it's not based on any kind of like principle. Again, it's the strategy. You've got the liberal Democrat strategy of going after China and Russia at the same time, which is not very smart on their part. This is the Republican, the conservative, Tucker Carlson, Trump wing of the conservative movement. Forge an alliance with Russia, pull Russia away from China, isolate China, but it's not going to work. When was the last time Chinese troops were deployed anywhere? Whether they're actually deployed all over the United States right now. Did you know that? Did you know that? Maybe we should watch this video. Have you seen this? Have you heard about this? How China is sneaking PLA soldiers into US. They're already here. They're already here. They're just waiting on the word. Those aren't troops. Those are sleeper agents. Okay, it's true. But that's that's phase 1. You know. It's phase 1. We can celebrate that. Stand back and stand by. Of course, they've got all the secret police stations up and running. MAGA commies, aka white nationalists, keep saying Trump is better on foreign policy. Pathetic. Yeah, and like I'll keep saying, zero evidence to support that claim. Zero evidence whatsoever to support that claim. Let's now take a look at Biden. Look at him. Look, if we just slather him in bronzer and inject some more fucking Botox and send him out there to yuck it up, everyone's going to forget about the whole fact that he can't talk anymore.
And be officially nominated. What happens if you have another episode like we saw during the debate?
What happens if another?
Yeah, what happens if you have another performance on that on that level?
I don't plan on having another performance on that level.
And be officially nominated. What happens if you have another episode like we saw during the debate?
No.
What happens if another?
Yeah,
no.
What happens if you have another performance on on that level?
I don't plan on having another performance on that level.
Is this fucking guy serious? Oh my god. This is your chance, sir. We're going to throw you a little softball right down the middle of the plate. Here's your chance. I don't plan on having another. Jesus Christ. I don't plan on having another. Thank you, sir. Your charisma is really just leaping off the screen here. And let's see them adjust their campaign strategy here now that don't want to be too mean.
Well, let's talk about the conversation this has started, and it's really about language, what we say out loud and the consequences of those. You called your opponent an existential threat on a call a week ago. You said it's time to put Trump in the bullseye. There's some dispute about the context,
this is so
but
pathetic.
I think you appreciate.
Like, people know, people are not stupid. You know what a fucking metaphor is. You know what it means to say put a bullseye on him. Like, the idea, like, Trump, like, the fact that they're letting that, like, oh, we shouldn't use those words. Like, fuck off. This is just such pathetic concern trolling.
I didn't say crosshairs. I was talking about focus on. Look, the truth of the matter was, what I guess I was talking about at the time was, there was very little focus on Trump's agenda.
Yeah, the term is bullseye.
It was a
no.
mistake to use the word. I didn't say crosshairs. I meant bullseye. I meant focus on him. Focus on what he's doing. Focus on his policies. Focus on the number of lies he told in the debate. Focus. I mean, there's a whole range of things that, look, I'm not the guy that said I want to be a dictator on day one. I'm not the guy that refused to accept the outcome of the election. I'm not the guy who said that wouldn't accept the outcome of this election automatically. You can't only love your country when you win. And so the focus was on what he's saying, and I mean, the idea.
But have you taken a step back and done a little soul searching on things that you may have said that could incite?
Like I was saying, this is one of their guys. Should be their answer. No, this wasn't us. You caused this. They caused this. They created this climate. They created the climate of all the guns floating around. They worship violence. They worship political violence. To talk to them about their rhetoric. You know what I mean?
You can count on me,
people who are not balanced,
Rob, to talk you through all this.
Well,
thank you very much, Diego.
I don't think, look, how do you talk about the threat to democracy, which is real, when a president says things like he says? Do you just not say anything because it may incite somebody? Look, I have not engaged in that rhetoric. Now, my opponent is engaged in that rhetoric. He talks about there'll be a bloodbath if he loses, talking about how he's going to forgive.
Yeah, no, it's pathetic, the journalist that keeps
actually
pushing this.
Suspend the sentences of all those who were arrested.
This is like the state media, what they do. This whole both sides thing.
Happened in the Capitol. I'm not out there making fun of, like, remember the picture of Donald Trump when Nancy Pelosi's husband was hit with a hammer, joking about it?
Yeah, they've been clamoring for political violence since before 2016. Their whole thing is like, lock up our political opponents, lock her up. Remember that? That's their whole thing, is about painting. We talked about this yesterday. There's been decades of this, like going back to like the Rush Limbaugh talk radio revolution. You know, this is how they've been talking about liberals and Democrats in the conservative movement for like at least 30 fucking years. They call them demons and sickos and murderers, baby killers, you know, all this shit. They've been doing that for decades. The idea that there's anywhere remotely in comparison with this harsh rhetoric of that Joe Biden has been using. Give me a break.
What about
this though? This is exactly how it happened. That was exactly how that happened. We all saw it. I need that link. Okay, just one sec. Okay, just one sec. Got that link for you. Look at this shit though.
My question though is why is your and United States at the current moment support for Israel so strong?
Look,
October 7th.
Israel, if there weren't an Israel, every Jew in the world would be at risk.
Can barely hear what he
Every Jew in
says.
the world would be at risk.
Jesus.
And United States at the current moment support for Israel so strong?
Look, Israel, if there weren't an Israel, every Jew in the world would be at risk.
Every time this fucking guy says that, I find it shocking. The president of the United States he's saying Jews in America are not safe unless Israel is there. What the fuck does that mean? It's literally the opposite is true. Literally the opposite is true of what he's saying. How does the president of the United States say this shit though? Without Israel, no Jew in the world is safe. Zero evidence to support that assertion. And like the anti-Semitism and the Holocaust, that was a European problem.
This is some guy, Rob Russo, some leftist based in Canada. I was turned on to this sick individual, and I found this.
Dave, thanks for the raid. I appreciate it, Dave. How's it going? Welcome, everybody. It's me, Rob. Hello, it's nice to have you. We're just watching this interview with this decrepit old fuck. Thank you, Dave. I appreciate it.
Every Jew in the world will be at risk. And so there's a need for it to be strong and a need for Israel to be able to have, after World War II, the ability for Jews to have a place that was their own.
Oh, it's
but
painful.
you don't have to be a Jew to be a Zionist. And the Zionist is about whether or not Israel is a safe haven for Jews because of their history of how they've been persecuted.
Are you a Zionist?
Yes. Again, this whole idea about Israel, it's just about, a safe place, having their own safe place. Well, why does it have to be in this place where that's completely reliant on apartheid and ethnic cleansing to make that work, and genocide? Why is it the Arabs' problem? Why is it the Palestinians' problem? They didn't do the Holocaust. They didn't cause the anti-Semitism that was happening in Europe and North America. What did they do? This whole idea, this description of like what Zionism is and what Israel is, it's just completely ahistorical. And that's what everyone has realized. If you hadn't realized it yet, a lot of folks over the last year have realized that and don't believe this bullshit anymore. And they shouldn't.
Yes. Now you'll be able to make a lot out of it because people don't know what a Zionist is.
Yeah, we do.
Do you know what a Zionist is?
I just ask questions, I don't answer.
By the way, I'm the guy that did more for the Palestinian community than anybody. I'm the guy that opened up all the assets I'm the guy.
This just
that
makes me
managed to
sick.
Ensure that I got the Egyptians to open the border to let goods through, medicine, and food, but what's happening is,
it's so fucking. First of all, he just can't talk. He cannot talk. Like, even when he has his shit mostly together. But to the fucking audacity for Biden and anyone in the United States government to be like, oh, I've done the most for Palestinians than anybody. Sending the bombs, sending the weapons for almost an entire year now. Like, we're coming, like, what is it, 10 months? 10 months of massacre after massacre after massacre after massacre. The most childhood amputees in the world. Bombing and destroying all the hospitals, all the health infrastructure. Tens of thousands of people killed, hundreds of thousands of people buried under the rubble, all of Gaza destroyed. And the fucking audacity of this guy to say, oh, I did the most for Palestine, like that, I did the most for Palestinians than anybody. Like that is psychotic. That is absolutely psychotic. You're literally aiding and abetting a genocide of these people. And then you're fucking telling them to say thank you? Oh, but why aren't they thanking me enough? No one appreciates everything that I've done for these people. What I'm sending Israel the bombs that they're using to drop on people, babies sleeping in tents. Why doesn't everyone appreciate all the things that I've done? It's absolutely disgusting. And talking about opening up the border on the Egypt side to let the aid through. Well, why isn't more aid getting through? It's because Israel's blocking it. And they've done fuck all to prevent that. Absolutely nothing. I did more for Palestinians than anybody. Yeah, it's absolutely sick. It's sickening.
And I'm the guy that's been able to pull together the Arab states to agree to help the Palestinians with food and shelter. I'm the guy, and so it's not. I mean, I have been very supportive of.
You can't fucking do it.
Palestinians.
No, you haven't. You're killing
Hamas,
people.
They're a bunch of thugs. Hamas is not worthy.
But the Netanyahu government is not.
About 8 days after the massacre.
The Netanyahu government is not thugs.
Mothers and daughters being tied in a rope together, kerosene poured in their head, and them burned to death.
That did not happen.
Nothing's happened like that since the Holocaust.
That did not happen.
And it's just not appropriate.
By the measure of your support for Israel, why would a Muslim or an Arab American vote for you for re-election?
The same reason why Arab Americans in the region support me. The same reason why, because it's the best way to keep peace, the best way to put things together.
You keep peace by continuing to drop the bombs on little babies.
In the region. I've been a strong supporter of
the two-state solution that Israel has no interest in. Your allies.
I've done has been, I've gotten significant support from Arab countries.
It's just absolutely sick. So, like, not only is this man deeply evil, literally a mass murderer, but he can't fucking talk. You can barely understand a goddamn word he's saying, and that's when he has his shit mostly together, like in this interview, which was probably done in the middle of the day when he's not so sleepy. He can't fucking do it. Or on the torture Israel's been doing for decades. Like all the story after story about this mass sexual violence that Palestinians have apparently perpetrated. More and more evidence coming out. Eyewitness testimony, real actual testimony, rather than like the complete bullshit narrative that's been promoted about this. Real eyewitness testimony about Palestinians being sexually assaulted and raped, sometimes to death, in these like Israeli torture prisons. No word from that. No word about that from Biden. No word about that in the New York Times or any of our media. No discussion of it. And they see the stories. They see all the same stories that we do. Not one word about this, about the rampant sexual violence that's going on in these Israeli torture prisons. Yeah, all the leader of our vassal states, of our puppet states, love us for all their weapons goodies, so Arabs in Michigan should vote for me. Congratulations. But he repeats the debunked IDF lies. Yeah, like we'll not forget as well, this Biden was himself promoted this whole idea about beheaded babies. Yet another story that's been proven to be complete bullshit from that period. So that's what I mean. Not only is this man deeply evil, a mass murderer, in addition to all the other horrible things that he stood for throughout his career, mass incarceration, Iraq war, war on terror, you know, but a mass murderer, and just can't do it. He can't talk. This is why they're losing to this ticket of dipshit extremists. Unpopular dipshit extremists. He has never been a good or empathetic man. Yeah, that's all the complete bullshit, this whole idea. Oh, he's a fundamentally good man. Okay, he had a bad night at the debate, okay? He's just getting a little old. He mixes people up sometimes. Maybe he's lost a step. But he's a fundamentally kind and decent and empathetic man. Fuck off. You know? Just sick. Sicko. A real sicko. And yet this is why they're losing to Trump and J.D. Vance. A completely beatable ticket of weird extremists who have unpopular positions on a variety of issues that affect everyday people. You're losing to these bozos. How hard is it to migrate to Canada? It's not easy. And we're also facing our own conservative wave election too. So you can't escape it. My one hope is instead of getting Trudeau wiped out, they get desperate and have some kind of a unified front and maybe offer up some goodies to bribe us to vote for the Liberal establishment again. That's my one hope of something positive happening in Canada. So Scandinavia? No, I would say if you live in America, you should stay in America and you should join in a organization. That's not the Democratic Party, whatever it is, you know, your local DSA chapter, PSL, whatever it is, you know, that's what you should do. You shouldn't be talking about moving or leaving. If you can, if you have the ability, like the ability to do that, you know, not everyone does, which I do recognize. If Canada's still here by the end of this decade, it'll be a miracle, but probably still hell. Yeah. Like I said, my one hope is that we get some kind of like a UBI or something because they're so desperate to cling on to power that they finally offer up some kind of concessions. We shouldn't all be learning Korean. Well, we should be learning Korean and Mandarin as well. Yeah. And that's it. We stay here. We tried our best to, if possible, join some kind of revolutionary organization here. And then when the collapse comes and China's ready to swoop in, we've laid a little bit of the groundwork for them. You know, that's what we can do. When they swoop in to be like, okay, we're going to help you guys get back on your feet. We're going to build some infrastructure. We're going to finally do some stuff here. And we're going to plant those seeds and we're going to be on the ground and greasing the skids for that. Why, so I can get killed by the better trained fascist militias? No thanks. I mean, maybe there's an element to that. Personally, I think a lot of these American fascists are fucking lazy, though. They're lazy. I don't like, as much as these people are angry and racist and psychos, I don't know that they have they're too addicted to their treats. They talk a big game, but I think these reactionaries are a paper tiger. You know, both domestically and in the form of Western imperialism in the first place. These people are cowards. They just want to go and get their fucking Ford F-150s and live in their McMansions and get their fucking TGI Fridays or whatever it is. They're happy to have the cops act on their behalf, though. Yeah, and that's what all the cop cities are being built for. But also, I don't want to downplay that, obviously. But, like, think of Uvalde. You know? These people are cowards. Anyway, I don't want to downplay the seriousness of this, and I don't want to also lecture to anyone about joining organizations and that kind of stuff. I do think it's important if you can. I'm not really a member of any kind of revolutionary organization, so I'm not lecturing anybody about what they should or should not do. Okay? I just have a little radio show that I do here on twitch.tv. So you don't need to listen to me. But I think if you're that concerned that you're thinking about leaving the country, if you're really that concerned, there are things that you can do, you know? That's not just voting for this decrepit fucking war criminal. Okay, this looks great. This is a perfect video to put on. I'm going to put on this Ben Norton video to dispel this notion about Trump being some kind of a threat to the deep state that these people are trying to promote. Completely fictional fantasy bullshit. Once again, if you do want to support this stream before we put on this video, if possible, please do subscribe. It was a nice welcome back, but now I'm back at square one. I'm digging myself out of a big hole. So if you can, folks, please subscribe to this program and help me make this little number at the bottom of the screen go up. I do this show every single day, and for the time being, and every little bit helps. I really appreciate everyone that supports this program. You can help keep this show on the air. You can join the Friendship Triangle system. Twitch's only two-dimensional triangle-shaped friendship access and trickle-down clout tiered reward system. It helps me, and it helps you. Help me help you, chat. Help me help you. Thank you, Monk Sphere.
You can count on me. You're going to have good old Rob to talk you through all this.
Thank you, Monk Sphere, for the gifted sub, and thanks, Spaceman, as well, for the 10 months. Very cool. I appreciate that. Are there any other takers? Before we put on this video by Benjamin Norton, the Geopolitical Economy Report. Do any other fine folks want to support this channel? Risk Inverse, thanks for the gifted sub. I really appreciate all the support, Risk Inverse. Thank you. Currently in the sub leaderboards for this month is we got Kijiji Genie at 20. We got Comrade Bushy with 5. And we got Risk Inverse at 2. So it's a low bar if you want to get in there at that third spot. Or even the second spot. It's up for grabs to anyone right now. And I know how exciting that is. I know how exciting that is for people.
You can count on me. You're going to have good old Rob to talk you through all this.
Scat, thank you for the 6 months tier 1. I appreciate it. Thank you. Eigenbat, thanks for the gifted sub as well. We do have a bit of a hype train going now, folks. So now you can, in addition to supporting this program, you can also get access to some very cool and exclusive Twitch hype train emotes as well. So help me support this program. Help me make this little number go up. Help me with the number. And not only can you join this community and get access to all the wonderful benefits that you get from being part of this community, but also you can get access to some very cool, highly exclusive Twitch hype train emotes. We're 20% of the way through level 2. Level 2 is no big, it's nothing. Level 2 is nothing. A couple gifted subs is going to get to level 3. Looks like not everyone blew their sub load yesterday. Well, there was a lot of load blowing. I'll tell you that much.
You can count on me. You're going to have good old Rob to talk you through all this.
Ryaland, thanks for the gifted sub to friggin' Banana
use the
Pants.
computer to mark
Thanks
up
you, Ryaland.
the
Thank you,
size of
Joe,
the account.
for the 200
This
bits.
stream is endorsed by Bad to the Bone Truckers who give no damns.
Hell yeah, brother. Hell yeah. We're 50% of the way there to level 3, folks. Help me keep this show on the air. Help me make the little number go up. I'll do a little business here and then we'll move on. Then we'll talk, we'll watch this Benjamin Norton video. Bad. He really does that B sound. That's not easy to do in a song. I'm quite low energy, despite the energy drink. I think it's been a little bit tricky to get back into the streaming lifestyle, honestly. Maybe by next week I should be okay. Time for a second energy drink. I don't have another one, unfortunately. One day of work is too much, I say. Well, it's true. Very true. Folks, we're halfway to the sub goal. Not only are we halfway to the sub goal, we're halfway to level 3 of this hype train. 2 minutes to go. We could move on from this in just a few moments. Thank you for bearing with me. Please subscribe if you can. Help me make the little number go up. It's going up slowly but surely. Not quite the easy breezy day that we had yesterday, which was very cool, by the way. Joey Stalin, thank you for the gifted sub. Joey Steele, we call him. We call him Joey Steele, folks. Do 10 jumping jacks when we hit 20. I don't know. I have been having some pain issues in my ankle. I literally don't think I could. Like, physically I could. In terms of my conditioning, I think it would hurt my ankle, though. Stalin. Chat, only 32% of the way left to get out of this level of the hype train. A mere 32% to go. A few more gifted subs could do it. A few more gifted subs are going to get it done. And you can support this program. Help me climb out of this deep hole that I had the audacity to take some time to spend with my family for a little while. And you can also join the community and you can support yourself. You know, it's not just about supporting me. It's not just about supporting me. It's about supporting yourself. It's about making a decision for you and for your future and for your well-being. Chaos the Gardener. Thank you, Chaos the Gardener, for the gifted sub. I appreciate it a lot. Let's throw on this Ben Norton video to dispel this notion about Trump being some kind of a threat to the deep state or any of this bullshit. While obviously we can recognize that there are factions of the state, the national security state, that don't like Trump. I think that much is obvious. Pretending that he's some kind of a threat to the interests of the deep state or the security state is laughable. It's absolutely laughable. So let's put on this clip. Thanks so much, everyone, for supporting the program.
Troops in Syria. You know what I did? I left troops to take the oil. I took the oil. The only troops I have are taking the oil.
Venezuela. How about we're buying oil from Venezuela?
When I left, Venezuela was ready to collapse. We would have taken it over. We would have gotten all that oil. It would have been right next door. Excuse me, I didn't. I'm the
That's
one
not
that
yours,
gave
sir. That doesn't belong to you.
Ukraine offensive weapons and tank killers. Obama didn't. You know what he sent? He sent pillows and blankets.
Loden, you do
We
love me, don't
here
lie.
are focused on geopolitics and economics.
Don't lie to me and don't lie to yourself.
It's very obvious. It's in our name. And an issue that I often try to avoid is domestic partisan U.S. politics. It's very frustrating to talk about domestic U.S. politics because people tend to be very dogmatic and very partisan. They pick a party, the Republicans or the Democrats. They defend them no matter what. They treat the political party like a sports team or a superhero that can do no wrong. This is despite the fact that, ironically, the Republican and Democratic parties share a lot of their policies in common. The foreign policy that they carry out is 95% the same, this bipartisan orthodoxy. Much of their economic policy is the same. And yet people get angry if you criticize a Democrat, they think that you're a Republican, or if you criticize a Republican, they think that you're secretly a Democrat. So
Ben
before
Norton's
I
the world's
begin
biggest
today,
Biden
I
bro.
simply want to emphasize that I am not in any way trying to defend the Democratic Party and Joe Biden, who has been a horrific president, which is why his approval rating is so extremely low. But I am going to be talking about Donald Trump and the fact of the matter that Donald Trump is not a so-called threat to the deep state. He's not a threat to the elites. Donald Trump is himself a billionaire elite who is funded by many prominent billionaires on Wall Street, as I'll be speaking about today. And when Donald Trump was president, his foreign policy was very similar to the foreign policy of the Republican and Democratic presidents who came before him. He continued supporting wars around the world, backing coups and regime change operations, imposing sanctions on foreign countries. Donald Trump personally ordered assassinations of foreign politicians, which is quite ironic today. And the simple fact is there were many, many more similarities than there were differences in the very hawkish, belligerent foreign policy of Donald Trump as there were with the foreign policy of Obama and George Bush and Bill Clinton and Ronald Reagan and Joe Biden. The fact of the matter is that for decades, every single U.S. president has been a war criminal who has waged war around the world, tried to overthrow foreign governments. Donald Trump is no exception to that. However, many of Trump's supporters are claiming that he was targeted because he is an enemy of the deep state and that there was a deep state
If he's
attempt to
targeted, they just don't
assassinate
like him
him
'cause he's rude.
on July 13th at a...
Like I was saying, like, if you believe that there's some kind of like deep state conspiracy against Donald Trump, it's not because he's a threat to them because he has principles. They might view him as a threat because he's such a fucking moron that he keeps talking openly about what their plans are rather than couching it in this bullshit about human rights, which is what you're supposed to do. Like, that's, if there's a faction of the deep state that's against Donald Trump, that's why. And if he's a threat to them, it's not because he's got these anti-war principles. It's because he can't keep his big mouth shut. You know? That's why. There's no big secret, like, anti-war principles that are animating any of this stuff. He literally just, they find him rude and uncouth, and he won't keep his big fucking mouth shut and starts spilling all the beans, you know? And just openly saying, we're going after the oil. We want the oil, folks. Like, just absurd. And what he was saying as well in that interview that Ben put on previously was totally true. He's talking about arming Ukraine. And he's criticizing Obama for not arming Ukraine enough. All these liberals think he's Putin's puppet. And meanwhile, he sanctions Russia while he's the president and contributes to this whole situation of surrounding, encircling Russia militarily. Unless it's the 4D chess thing, and Putin wanted Trump to send weapons to Ukraine, so then Putin would have the excuse to go and but then you're doing mental gymnastics, Then you're doing mental gymnastics. If Putin wanted Trump to provoke the invasion, so they would have a reason to do it. It's not just Donald Trump that wanted to bring Ukraine into NATO. It's not just Donald Trump that wanted to turn Ukraine into basically a glorified U.S. military base. That's the deep state that these people are so afraid of.
Rally in Pennsylvania in which a shooter allegedly tried to kill Donald Trump. Now, this story is very, very strange. The shooter was identified. He was killed on the day of the attack. He was a 20-year-old named Thomas Matthew Crooks. And the irony is he was actually registered as a Republican. He was a proud, patriotic, conservative American. He was very young. He graduated from a high school in Pennsylvania in 2022. And in his final graduation photo, he wore a t-shirt with the U.S. flag on it. And local media outlets reported they interviewed his classmates who said that he had conservative political leanings. And the majority of his classmates were liberals, but he, no matter what, always stood his ground on the conservative side. So this story is very strange. A 20-year-old Republican conservative. Now, some of Trump's supporters are claiming that the left tried to kill him because this shooter, Thomas Matthew Crooks, when he was 17 years old, a teenager, in 2021, he made one donation of $15 to a political action committee, a PAC that is supposedly progressive, called the Progressive Turnout Project. But in reality, as the independent journalist Ryan Grimm has showed, this is not actually a progressive PAC. It's actually a spam operation. He referred to it as one of those spammy PACs that carpet bombs your inbox. And he published an example, a screenshot of one of these emails that this PAC sends out. They get access to your email, and you've probably seen this stuff in your
spam folder. Hang on one sec,
folder.
folks.
And they just send you hundreds and hundreds of spam messages with polls saying, should President Joe Biden pardon Donald Trump? And they often try to confuse people into donating to them, thinking that a bill is overdue or they have to do something for their taxes. So they mislead people. So it's not surprising that a 17-year-old kid made a $15 donation. It doesn't mean that he was a left-winger, not in any way. In fact, a spokesperson for this spam operation revealed that the shooter actually unsubscribed from the mailing list 1 year later in 2022 when he was 18 years old. So there is no evidence whatsoever that this 20-year-old shooter was part of the U.S. deep state. He did not work in the past for an intelligence agency or a police force. He had no professional experience other than working as a dietitian at an old folks home. And again, he just graduated from high school 2 years before. He was a registered Republican. His classmates said that he was conservative. We have no idea why he did this. I'm not here to speculate. I'm going to be talking about foreign policy and geopolitics today. I just want to begin emphasizing that because the people claiming that this is some kind of deep state operation or it's politically motivated by the left, this is nonsense. There's no evidence whatsoever, and people should stop speculating irresponsibly like that. What I do want to talk about today is how Donald Trump is not in any way a threat to the U.S. deep state. On the contrary, if you look at Donald Trump's foreign policy when he was president and the foreign policy that he has promoted since leaving office as he campaigns for president again, you can see very clearly that he is in agreement with the vast majority of the U.S. foreign policy establishment in Washington in supporting war, in supporting empire, in supporting sanctions, in supporting regime change. As I'll be showing today in depth with concrete evidence and sources. When Donald Trump was president, he killed Iran's top general in an act of war against Iran. He also killed a top Iraqi military official, and the Iraqi government ordered Trump to withdraw the U.S. troops occupying Iraq. He refused to withdraw them, so he maintained the illegal U.S. occupation of Iraq. He also maintained the illegal U.S. military occupation of Syria and boasted that he was stealing Syria's oil.
But we have the oil. Right now, the United States has the oil.
Furthermore, he launched a coup attempt and a failed invasion of Venezuela. He massively expanded the sanctions on Cuba and called for overthrowing Cuba's government. He backed a violent coup attempt against Nicaragua's leftist government. He backed a successful coup against Bolivia's left-wing government. He continued the war in Afghanistan, refusing to withdraw troops. He expanded the war on Yemen, refusing to end the war in Yemen. And as his top foreign policy officials, Donald Trump appointed key parts of the U.S. deep state. Donald Trump's first Secretary of State was Rex Tillerson, who was a CEO of ExxonMobil, the oil corporation. His subsequent Secretary of State was the former CIA director, Mike Pompeo, a hardcore neoconservative.
What's the cadet motto at West Point? You will not lie, cheat, or steal, or tolerate those who do. I was the CIA director. We lied, we cheated, we stole. It was like we had entire training courses.
The CIA is the king of the deep state. Well, Donald Trump put the deep state in charge of the State Department. Quite literally, the CIA ran Donald Trump's State Department. Furthermore, Donald Trump appointed as his national security advisor John Bolton, the arch neoconservative.
As I was saying, this is just the reactionary copium version of like Lucy kicking the football. If we just elect Trump again, this time, if we give him another chance, this time he's going to drain the swamp and go after the deep state rather than appointing all these deep state people to his cabinet and doing the exact same shit that the US government always does and continuing all the exact same policies in Iran, China, Ukraine, Israel, Palestine. This time is going to be different. This time he's really going to go after the deep state. Why didn't he do it? That's my question. Why didn't he do it the first time? You know, what was up with that? That was his whole campaign. We're going to drain the swamp, the deep state, all this shit. Why didn't he do it then? It's the mirror version of Biden being like, in the first 100 days, I'm going to do all these great things. Why don't you do it now? Why wait? Why do you need another chance now? You had a chance. If this guy was serious about challenging like this entrenched power in Washington, he would have done that when he was president the first time, and he did no such thing. Trust the plan. Like that's the ultimate cult thing. Like it's 8 years later. 8 years later, trust the plan. The storm is coming. There's no storm. This is like the most pathetic thing. There's no storm coming. There's nothing. He's not going to drain the swamp. He's not going to. He had his chance to do that, and he did no such thing.
Who was in the George Bush administration. He was an architect of the Iraq War. He has never seen a war that he did not love.
To talk you through all this.
He's over there on the roof with a rather large gun. Who? What? Where? Vote now to save yourself.
Ben, thank you very much for the 22 months. Thank you. Yeah, they got a lot quieter on the Epstein stuff, didn't they? Release that's Epstein documents. Wait, not those ones though. Keep those ones locked up. Keep those ones classified. You don't understand. He was tricked by the deep state. They tricked him. Well, it's like, that's if you're gonna get tricked by these people, then how do you have any credibility? How do you have any credibility that you're not gonna do the exact same shit again? They played you like a fiddle the first time. The president is just the manager of capital. The system pretty much runs on autopilot, especially on a foreign policy level. Like, especially that. There's a bipartisan foreign policy consensus in all these different countries. And the idea that Trump is going to be some kind of counter to that is completely delusional. Completely delusional.
And he helped carry out these warmongering policies under Donald Trump because the reality is that Trump simply brought back many of the neoconservatives from the George Bush administration and from the Ronald Reagan administration. Trump also brought back war criminals like Elliot Abrams, who oversaw his coup attempt in Venezuela. Elliot Abrams was one of the masterminds behind the Iran-Contra scandal in the Ronald Reagan administration in the 1980s.
This guy's basically a Nazi.
So all you have to do is look at the people who were running Donald Trump's foreign policy. They were literally part of the deep state. The deep state was running Donald Trump's foreign policy. He voluntarily appointed them. No one told him that he had to appoint these neoconservative war hawks as his top foreign policy officials.
Maybe someone did tell him.
Trump voluntarily did that. Furthermore, as I'll be showing today, Donald Trump sent Ukraine weapons that even Obama had refused to send Ukraine. Trump tore up 2 different arms treaties with Russia, threatening war on Russia. And Donald Trump started the trade war on China and the new Cold War on China that Biden has continued. These are all bipartisan policies. But first, what I'm going to start with today is Israel, because Israel continues to carry out horrific crimes against humanity in Gaza, bombing Gaza with billions of dollars of U.S. military support. Of course, Joe Biden, the Democratic U.S. president, is providing those bombs being used to kill children and women and elderly people and other civilians in Gaza. But Donald Trump and the Republican Party staunchly support those policies. And in fact, Donald Trump himself proudly said in 2024, in March, he said that he boasted that he was, quote, the best president in the history of Israel. Furthermore, the Israeli newspaper Haaretz reported on pro-Israel fundraisers that are happening in support of Trump. And in these pro-Israel fundraisers, they are proudly referring to Trump as, quote, the most pro-Israel president in history. They're raising money for Donald Trump's campaign, pro-Israel groups boasting that he is the most pro-Israel president. The Israeli apartheid regime itself agrees with that. Back when Trump was president, the far-right leader of Israel Benjamin Netanyahu, created a settlement in the illegally occupied Golan Heights, which is Syrian.
And like Biden loves killing Palestinians so much that he goes over and supports this guy and gives this guy big hugs and kisses while they're doing the genocide. This is how much Joe Biden just refuses to see Palestinians as actual human beings.
Sovereign territory that Israel has been illegally occupying for decades, according to international law. Well, Netanyahu went to this illegally occupied Syrian territory to open a new settlement that is called Trump Heights. It is named after Donald Trump in honor of Trump's staunch support for Israel. And of course, Trump moved the U.S. embassy from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem, which is also occupied according to international law. Almost no other country on earth has done that. Only the U.S. and a few colonies and proxy regimes. And yet Donald Trump did that and boasted of doing that in support of Israel. And meanwhile, as Donald Trump is campaigning for president in 2024, he is telling donors at fundraisers that he wants to arrest and deport pro-Palestine protesters in the U.S. I'm reading here from the Times of Israel, which is an Israeli newspaper, titled, "Trump says he'll deport anti-Israel student protesters if elected." In a fundraiser, Trump said, quote, "If you get me reelected, we're going to set that movement," that is the pro-Palestine movement, "back 25 or 30 years. It has to be stopped now." Trump said, quote, "One thing I do is any student that protests, I throw them out of the country." And he also said that it was beautiful watching police brutalize pro-Palestine protesters
don't
on
say
college
that
campuses
Trump and Biden don't get
in the
along.
US.
Look at that.
Trump is
They
literally
can agree.
as pro-Israel as it gets. He's proud of it. The irony is that the Democratic president, Joe Biden, is also as pro-Israel as it gets. He's sending billions of dollars of weapons to Israel as it's bombing children. And Trump wants to send even more weapons. In fact, in the disastrous debate in which Biden couldn't even tell you where he was, what the hour was, what his name was. I mean, Biden is so clearly in extreme cognitive decline.
Making sure that we're able to make every single solitary person eligible for what I've been able to do with the with the COVID. Excuse me, with dealing with everything we have to do with. Look, if we finally beat Medicare.
But in that debate, Trump was criticized.
I haven't watched that since that night. God, that's so bad. Fuck. That is, yeah, his head, he just hangs his head in defeat because he knows he's lost the thread. Like, what was I saying before? I don't know. I don't remember. It's gone. It's gone. I'm so glad I skipped that debate. Well, actually, Technomancy, it was actually, I didn't watch the debate, but because I was trying to get some work done, but I just had Twitter. I was watching Twitter, and frankly, for all its faults, Elon Musk and how much of a piece of shit he is, there's still like no place like Twitter when there's big things going on like that. I simply just kept refreshing Twitter to see people's reactions in real time, and it was incredible. It was an incredible way to experience that as the disaster unfolded. Just seeing people just being like, "Oh my God, oh no." Oh, that was just so bad, though. My God.
Biden for supposedly not being pro-Israel enough. And as an insult, Trump referred to Biden as a Palestinian. That is how much he has dehumanized Palestinians, the indigenous peoples of Palestine who are being ethnically cleansed and bombed by Israel with U.S. weapons. Trump hates Palestinians so much that he uses the word Palestinian as an insult.
Israel's the one that wants to go. He said the only one who wants to keep going is Hamas. Actually, Israel is the one, and you should let him go and let him finish the job. He doesn't want to do it. He's become like a Palestinian, but they don't like him because he's a very bad Palestinian. He's a weak one.
And in fact, one of Donald Trump's strategies as he campaigns
exact
for president
same language. Vance is saying the
he's
same
saying
thing. Finish the
that
job.
Palestinians are the same as the people who cross the U.S. border. He said that the same people who attacked Israel are undocumented immigrants who are supposedly flooding the U.S. So he is literally campaigning on dehumanizing Palestinians and promising full-throated, unflinching support for Israel no matter what. This is who Donald Trump really is. But we're only scratching the surface here. There is so much to get into. As Donald Trump is campaigning for president, at a fundraiser, he actually threatened to bomb China and Russia. I'm reading here from the British newspaper, The Independent. Donald Trump suggested during a fundraising event that he would have bombed Moscow in response to Russia's invasion of Ukraine and attacked Beijing if China invaded Taiwan. Now, Democrats spent years spreading this ridiculous conspiracy theory claiming that Donald Trump was a Putin puppet and that supposedly Russia had meddled in the US election to get Trump elected. This ridiculous Russiagate conspiracy. In reality, it was the exact opposite. Donald Trump and the neocons that he appointed to run his foreign policy, they're just as responsible as Obama and Biden for the war in Ukraine, which is a NATO proxy war against Russia. Trump helped to set this up. In 2019, Trump boasted in a White House statement that he was withdrawing the U.S. from the Intermediate Range Nuclear Forces Treaty, the INF Treaty, and Trump personally claimed that supposedly Russia had not honored the agreement. This put the U.S. one step closer, a giant step closer, to war with Russia. Then, a year later, Donald Trump withdrew the U.S. from another Cold War era arms treaty with Russia, which had previously been signed with the Soviet Union, which is the Open Skies Treaty. So Donald Trump and the neocons he appointed, they were tearing up all of the arms deals with Russia, which made war, a proxy war with Russia, significantly more likely. And that's exactly what happened.
I don't take a ton of time off from doing this. I've been doing this show pretty regularly since wintertime. I took a little bit of time off, okay? And now I'm back. Until the next time that I have to go somewhere. Daddy has to go away for a little while. But I am back, though. So you just came in at the short time that I was taking a small amount of time away from Twitch.tv and my everlasting pursuit of making the little number at the bottom of the screen going up.
In fact, Trump sent lethal weapons to Ukraine that even Obama had refused to send, and Obama bears responsibility for backing the 2014 coup in Ukraine that overthrew Ukraine's democratically elected government and set off this proxy war in the first place. Obama started it, Trump expanded it, and Biden has expanded it. It's bipartisan. I'm reading here a newswire from ABC News in 2019. Trump admin approves new sale of anti-tank weapons to Ukraine. It adds, the Trump administration first approved the sale of Javelin missiles to Ukraine in 2017. The irony is that in 2022, with the war in Ukraine in full swing, Trump boasted that he provided Ukraine the weapons that it was using, quote, so well in order to fight Russia. He boasted of arming Ukraine to attack and kill Russian soldiers. So the idea that he was a Russian puppet is so ridiculously absurd. He set the stage for the Ukraine war just as much as Obama. The ultimate irony is that Trump criticized Obama because Obama had refused to send lethal weapons to Ukraine because he didn't want to fuel a proxy war with Russia, even though Obama had started it in many ways. And Trump famously said in an interview, he boasted, I sent weapons to Ukraine, unlike Obama.
That's Obama's foreign policy centrism. We'll do a coup in Ukraine, but we won't give them the Javelin missiles. That'll be the compromise.
And
thank
blankets.
You, sir. The smart
Here
wars.
Is this
thank
clip.
You.
People don't understand why you never have a harsh word for Vladimir Putin.
Okay, you ready?
I don't understand.
You don't know what I talked about with Putin in the meeting prior to the press conference?
Publicly. You never say anything harsh
Excuse
about him
me,
publicly.
I didn't. I'm the one that gave Ukraine offensive weapons and tank killers. Obama didn't. You know what he sent? He sent pillows and blankets.
Now, what's funny is that after Trump said that, CNN published a so-called fact check. They were so angry that Trump said that. CNN concluded that Trump is being hyperbolic. Obviously, I mean, you don't need to fact check that. Everyone knows that. And then CNN boasted that Obama sent to Ukraine counter-mortar radars, armored Humvees, night vision devices, etc. But what CNN didn't mention is that Trump was actually referencing a comment that had been made by the right-wing leader of Ukraine, Petro Poroshenko, who was a close ally of Donald Trump and some of the people around him.
Actually, Obama
Poroshenko,
did do
like
the war
Trump,
crimes.
was a billionaire. He was known as the chocolate king, chocolate oligarch in Ukraine. And he came to power after the US-backed coup the Obama administration organized coup in 2014 that overthrew Ukraine's democratically elected, geopolitically neutral leader. But the point is that when Poroshenko visited the United States in 2014, he complained about this, and the European news website Euroactiv, which is a vehemently anti-Russian, pro-Ukraine news website. This website is as anti-Russian as it gets. It's a mainstream European news website. It noted that in a speech, the Ukrainian right-wing oligarch leader Poroshenko spoke to the U.S. Senate and House of Representatives and appealed for lethal aid. And he complained in the U.S. Congress, quote, "Please understand me correctly. Blankets, night vision goggles are also important, but one cannot win the war with blankets. Even more, we cannot keep the peace with a blanket."
That's why McCain and Lindsey Graham are
who
going
was
over there
referencing
behind his
this
back.
comment that had been made by a Ukrainian leader that he was close friends with, who complained that Obama didn't send lethal weapons to Ukraine, which Trump did send. So the whole Russiagate narrative was
I'm pretty sure
ridiculous
Euroactiv is actually a
on so
Nazi
many
sympathizing
grounds.
site. Well, that not mutually exclusive at all. You're telling me this pro-Ukraine website is actually Nazi sympathizing as well? Wow, that's the first time hearing of this.
Another example was NATO. Biden has said, "I'm the best president for unifying NATO and strengthening NATO." Of course, NATO is not a defensive alliance. NATO is a warmongering alliance that destroyed Yugoslavia in the 1990s and no longer exists as a country. NATO destroyed Libya, overthrowing the Libyan government in a 2011 war of aggression, killing Libya's leader, Muammar Gaddafi. Libya had the highest living standards in all of Africa. It's been a failed state for over a decade. NATO brought open-air slavery back to Libya, and there are open-air slave markets in Libya now, and Biden is so proud of that. Well, Trump also bears responsibility for strengthening NATO as well, this warmongering alliance. When Trump was president, he called on NATO members to double their military spending from 2% of GDP to 4% of GDP. Trump was very proud of this. He said that everyone must expand their military spending in NATO because he was preparing for a war on China. Trump's top advisor, Steve Bannon, who was the CEO of Trump's 2016 presidential campaign, he said this openly in a conference. Steve Bannon boasted, quote, "We're at war with China." He said it. We're at war with China. And he claimed that the U.S. is supposedly winning that war. Trump was not a so-called pro-Russian leader. On the contrary, he was arming Ukraine to fight against Russia in a proxy war. Instead, Trump's strategy and Steve Bannon's strategy was to try to soften the tensions with Russia in order to weaken the friendship between Russia and China, because Trump wanted to isolate China to wage war on China. And it's not just Trump. There are many people in Washington who have called for this strategy, including the late war criminal Henry Kissinger, who had been an advisor to every single US president for decades, including Trump. He advised Trump. And Kissinger had told Trump that Trump should work with Russia to box in China. That was the strategy. And ironically, the liberal conspiracy theory, this obsession with Russiagate, ironically, that actually sabotaged this attempt by the Trump administration to reduce tensions with Moscow in order to wage war on Beijing. So now we see today that China and Russia are very close friends, very close partners, and this US strategy is going to fail. But this is exactly what the Nixon administration did, which was quite similar to the Trump administration in many ways. And Kissinger, of course, oversaw Nixon's foreign policy, and it was referred to as Kissingerian triangular diplomacy, and they wanted to try to do the same, to wage war on China. This was very, very clear under Trump. He's the one who started the trade war on China that Biden has only continued. It's, of course, bipartisan, Republicans and Democrats, but it was the Trump administration that started it. Mainstream media outlets like the Financial Times referred to Trump's aggressive policies against China back in 2020 as a new Cold War. And we now see today this new Cold War is completely bipartisan. Republicans and Democrats are supporting every single effort by the Biden administration to escalate this new Cold War against China. And Trump wants to take it even further. Biden has put tariffs on important Chinese technologies like electric vehicles, semiconductors, solar panels. He has restricted the export of advanced semiconductors and quantum computing parts and AI technology to China. And Trump wants to go even further. Trump has called for imposing blanket tariffs of at least 60%, if not more, on all Chinese products. All. This is an extreme economic war.
Can't get cheaper solar panels to solve climate change
massively
or electric vehicles.
Accelerating the trade war that Trump started in his first term up to level 11. I mean, this is extreme, and it would cause very high inflation in the United States, given how much the U.S. economy relies on importing products from China and how China plays a key role in global supply chains. Trump's national security advisor after John Bolton
count on me
was another
and good old
extreme
Rob
and
to talk you through all this.
Dan, hello. Thank you for the 20 months. I appreciate it. Thank you, Dan. We're 13 subs away from the goal, chat. It's within grasp. Remember, if you can, please subscribe to TRRS. Help to support this show. Help keep this show on the air. Support the content that I do make, create. I don't know how to even say that. Support the work that I do here on twitch.tv by subscribing. $5 a month. You can gift subs. You can gift bits. You can gift tips. Whatever it is. Every little bit helps. It helps me earn a little bit of a living from doing this show, which some people seem to like. It's my second show back after taking some time off, and it would be just fantastic to get to the old sub goal again. And 13, a measly 13 subs to get there. Can easily be done. Thank you, Silver Age. I appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you.
Anti-China war hawk named Robert O'Brien. And he published an article in June in which he called for basically war on China. He said that if Trump returns to the White House, the Trump administration is considering severing all economic ties with China, deploying the entire U.S. Marine Corps to Asia, and resuming live nuclear weapons testing to threaten China. This is what the U.S. deep state wants above all, war on China. And Donald Trump wants to deliver it to them on a silver platter. He is not in any way a threat to the so-called deep state. Not in any way. Donald Trump simply wants war on China, and he wants to reduce tensions with Russia and try to break the friendship between Russia and China to focus on isolating China. He disagrees with some Democrats who want war on both Russia and China. The difference is that Democrats want war on Russia now and China in the medium to the long term, whereas Trump and the Republicans, they want to pause tensions, pause relations with Russia, and instead they want war on China in the short term. But both political parties are full of warmongering imperialists and neocolonialists. Biden and Trump are both horrific war criminals. And we can also see this with Iran. I talked about how Donald Trump boasted of being the most pro-Israel president in history. Well, Donald Trump also came very close to starting a war with Iran. In 2018, Trump withdrew the U.S. from the Iran nuclear deal, the JCPOA, the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action, in violation of international law. It was not just the U.S. that signed this with Iran. It was the 5 permanent members of the UN Security Council, So that's the US, the UK, France, China, and Russia, plus one, Germany, and the European Union. All of those other countries were also signatories of the JCPOA. They continued abiding by the agreement. It was only the US that withdrew, Trump who tore it up in violation of a UN Security Council resolution. And then in January 2020, Trump
talk you through all this.
World War III sub-hype.
Hell yeah, Technomancy. Thanks very much for 14 months of Prime. I'm probably going to finally figure my life out. I'm going to finally have shit all figured out. And then this is what's going to happen. Let's focus on the real victim of World War III, me, Rob Rousseau. The protagonist of reality. I'm finally going to have my shit figured out. And then this is what's going to happen. You couldn't make this stuff up.
Personally ordered the assassination of Iran's top general, Qasem Soleimani, an act of war. I remember when this happened, I and many people thought this could have started a direct conventional war with Iran. And of course, John Bolton, who was Trump's national security advisor, has for many years been openly calling for the U.S. to directly bomb Iran, to start a war in Iran, after he was an architect of the Iraq War, before Donald Trump made him his national security advisor. But not just that. Donald Trump also killed Iraq's top military commander, Abu Mahdi al-Mohandes, who was he was the commander of the Iraqi military forces, the PMFs, that were part of the Iraqi state. This was a U.S. act of war, not only against Iran, but also against Iraq. In response to this attack, what happened? Iraq's democratically elected parliament voted to expel the U.S. troops who were and still are illegally occupying sovereign Iraqi territory. And what was Donald Trump's response? He said, if you try to expel our troops, we will impose sanctions on you, on the democratically elected Iraqi government, because the U.S. doesn't actually care about democracy. It was never about democracy. In fact, Trump can't step foot in Iraq. Why? Because a year later, after he killed the top Iranian and Iraqi officials on Iraqi soil, the sovereign elected Iraqi government, its court, issued an arrest warrant for Trump for this act of war against the Iraqi people. So there is still an ongoing arrest warrant against Trump in Iraq and in Iran for these acts of war that he carried out. This is, by the way, why it's so ironic and so ridiculous seeing top U.S. officials and war criminals like Obama, in response to the alleged assassination attempt against Trump, they said, there is absolutely no place for political violence in our democracy. Supposedly, the U.S. is not a democracy, but Biden said there's no place for this kind of violence in America. Bernie Sanders said political violence is absolutely unacceptable. Nancy Pelosi said, I know firsthand that political violence of any kind has no place in our society. Meanwhile, Obama bombed numerous countries. He killed hundreds of thousands of people, if not millions. In the past few decades alone, just since 9/11, the U.S. government has killed millions of people, more than 1 million people in the illegal invasion of Iraq, more than 200,000 people in Afghanistan, hundreds of thousands of people in Yemen, hundreds of thousands of people in Syria. The list goes on. Hundreds of thousands of people have died
political
in Venezuela
violence when you send heavily militarized, jackbooted thugs to beat the shit out of anti-genocide student protesters? Does that count as political violence, I wonder? It's really amazing, this entire concept and the way this idea of political violence, the way how loaded this term is. Like I said, when it goes in one direction, when the political violence goes from the people that have nothing to the people that are powerful, then we can't have any of that. When it's flowing in the other direction, no problem. No problem.
Illegal U.S. sanctions. And meanwhile, these U.S. officials say, we're against political violence. Meanwhile, Obama ordered many assassinations by drone when he was president, and Donald Trump then continued that, ordering assassinations. And by the way, a top expert at the United Nations said that Trump's assassination of Iran's top general violated international law. But I mean, US presidents violate international law on a daily basis. It's their favorite pastime, regardless of whether or not they're Republican or Democrat. And speaking of that, back when Trump was president in 2019, he boasted of stealing Syria's oil. He bragged that the U.S. military was illegally occupying Syrian
This is why they don't like him, not
territory
because he's a
and
threat.
stealing its oil.
This is
Here's
why they
a
don't like
clip
him.
of a
If
Fox News interview.
if there's a deep state conspiracy to go after Trump, and I'm open to hearing the arguments about that. We've talked about the elements of January 6th. I mean, tons of red meat for that. The people that believe that conspiracy with this whole assassination attempt. If they really don't like Trump, though, it's not because he is actually like ideologically opposed to them. If he's a threat to them at all, it's just in his own fucking oafishness. And that's all. This is why they hate him.
In which Trump repeatedly says, I mean,
You're
he
not
just
supposed to
repeats
say this
himself again
shit.
and again and again. I took the oil. I took the oil. I took
You're
the oil.
not supposed to say
And then
this.
they say he left troops in Syria. You know what I did? I left troops to take the oil. I took the oil. The only troops I have are taking the oil. They're protecting the oil. I took over
We're taking the oil. We're not taking the
Well,
oil.
maybe we will. Maybe we won't.
They're protecting the facility.
I don't know. Maybe we should take it. But we have the oil. Right now, the United States has the oil. So
He's
they say
eyes.
he left troops
He really
in
is
Syria.
orange.
No, I got rid of all of them other than we're protecting the oil. We have the oil.
Now, Joe Biden has been a
This is why
warmonger
they don't
and
like
a
him.
war criminal, just like Trump, just like Obama, just like Bush. And one of the very few things that Biden has done in support of peace, basically the only single thing he did in support of peace, was withdraw the troops who had been occupying Afghanistan for 20 years. And Biden did not do that because he loves peace and opposes war. On the contrary, Biden has supported war his entire career. He supported the Iraq War. He whipped Democratic votes for the Iraq invasion led by Republican Bush. Biden has always been a warmonger, but the U.S. lost in Afghanistan. The U.S. and NATO were defeated in Afghanistan, and Biden was forced to withdraw the U.S. forces. And what was Trump's response? Instead of saying that finally we ended the war in Afghanistan, Trump criticized Biden for the withdrawal, saying it was a humiliation. Trump continued the war in Afghanistan when he was president. Why didn't Trump withdraw troops from Afghanistan? In fact, just as Trump boasted of taking Syria's oil, he also wanted to take Afghanistan's minerals. Afghanistan has
That's
at
what it was
least
always
$1
about.
trillion in estimated worth of minerals and important rare earth minerals and other minerals needed for new technologies. Trump wanted to exploit those natural resources, just like he boasted of exploiting Syria's natural resources. Trump had also made the same proposal back in 2011 when the Obama administration was overseeing the criminal war in Libya that destroyed the Libyan government and turned Libya into a failed state that still today is suffering from civil war. In 2011, Trump said that he would support the US-led war against Libya if the US agreed to take Libya's oil. And he said the same about Iraq. He said the US should have taken Iraq's oil after the invasion of Iraq. Trump is not and has never been anti-war. He is extremely pro-war and extremely explicitly pro-imperialist. And he says, look, if we're going to wage war, we should be like medieval barbarians. We should pillage and take everything out of the country that we invade.
You're supposed to say it's because
the
of
difference
human
is that
rights
Democrats
and
like
LGBTQIA+
Biden, they
rights
claim
and
that they
women's
care about
rights.
democracy and human rights and carry out the same war and same war crimes just like the Republicans, but unlike Trump, they don't say the quiet part loud. Another example of Donald Trump's warmongering was his continued support for the brutal war on Yemen, in which hundreds of thousands of Yemenis died because of this U.S.
We're supposed to pillage the
war
countries via the IMF
that
World
the U.S.
Bank,
was
not
using
directly.
Saudi
As we moved
Arabia
on
to
from this.
wage. And Trump vetoed a bill that was passed in the U.S. Congress that would have ended U.S. support for the war in Yemen. Instead, he vetoed it. That's how much he supported the war. And not only did Trump support Saudi Arabia, as it was brutally bombing civilian areas in Yemen,
Remember the
leading to
orb?
hundreds
Remember
of
touching
thousands
the orb? That was
of
good.
deaths and famine and an outbreak of cholera and other preventable diseases. Moreover, the Trump administration carried out airstrikes directly in Yemen. And a watchdog group known as Air Wars conducted an analysis. They found that the Trump administration carried out at least 190 armed actions, mostly airstrikes, in Yemen since Trump took office in 2017 up to...
Yeah, and you can mention the DPRK peace talks when it comes to this conversation about Trump, but I just don't... Like, he ended the Iran deal. Trump just wanted to win. That was not based in any kind of principle. That was just like, I want a big diplomatic effort that I can slap my name on and slap my brand on. It was not, it's like he doesn't actually care about fucking Koreans. He doesn't actually push back against the deep state. It was entirely just like, put something together for my own ego. It was very funny when he saluted the DPRK general. I appreciated that. I'll tell you that much. Yeah, and they continued with the military drills. I'm going to do the opposite of Obama. Exactly. Like, that's all it was. That's all the motivation was. Not some kind of like ideological commitment to diplomacy. If he actually had that, he would have continued diplomacy with Iran and Cuba, which he also did not do. Nor has Biden.
2020. And it wasn't just West Asia or the so-called Middle East that Trump was constantly bombing and waging war in. In fact, his former defense secretary, Mark Esper, one of his top allies, his top cabinet officials, said that Trump had called for bombing Mexico. He wanted to use missiles to attack cartels in Mexico. This is a blatant violation of the sovereignty of Mexico. And it completely misunderstands what cartels are. They are deeply embedded into the fabric of society with corrupt police officials and corrupt politicians and average people, especially in poor communities who don't have job opportunities and education, and they're attracted to organized crime and cartels. The point is that they're not just sitting out there on a field like in a conventional war or something. You can't just send a missile to destroy a cartel. This is not Napoleonic war. But Donald Trump refuses to understand that. And instead, there are reports that if he becomes president, he is making plans to send U.S. kill teams from the U.S. government. This is an invasion of Mexico. He wants to send them across the border, allegedly to fight drug cartels. Now, the Mexican government, the democratically elected leader, Andrés Manuel López Obrador, AMLO, has said that this would be a blatant violation of the sovereignty of Mexico. And yet, Trump wants to wage war against
Spanish
his southern
pronunciations.
neighbor. That's what it would be. It would be an invasion of his southern neighbor. But this is just barely scratching the surface of Trump's horrific crimes in Latin America. Trump has a neo-colonialist view of Latin America. He sees it as the colonial backyard of the U.S. And in his first term, he backed numerous far-right coup attempts, including in 2019, Bolivia's democratically elected socialist president, Evo Morales, the first ever indigenous leader of a country where the majority of the population is indigenous. Trump backed a coup that overthrew Evo Morales and installed a far-right extreme racist regime run by Christian fundamentalists who killed dozens of pro-democracy peaceful protesters. And by the way, Bolivia has some of the world's largest lithium reserves, which are needed for batteries that are used in electric vehicles and that are used in computers and phones and many other technologies. And Elon Musk, the billionaire capitalist oligarch who has endorsed Trump for president and said that he will be an advisor to Trump, well, Elon Musk let the cat out of the bag on Twitter, which he now owns. It's his personal property. On Twitter in 2020, a left-wing user criticized Elon Musk for backing the far-right coup in Bolivia. And in response, Elon Musk said, "We will coup whoever we want. Deal with it." And this Twitter user had pointed out that the US government organized a coup against Evo Morales in Bolivia so Elon Musk could obtain the lithium there. And Musk said it openly, yeah, we'll do it against whoever we want.
There's like J.D. Vance has made statements about Russia, Ukraine as well. This is why it's important to put it in this context. This is not because they're enemies of the deep state. It just means they have a different strategy about maintaining U.S. hegemony. They want an alliance with Russia and to take on China. The liberal wing of the ruling class wants to take on both at the same time. That's the difference. It's not because he's against the deep state or he has some kind of deeply held anti-war principles or anything like that.
Are the neo-colonialists who we're supposed to believe are supposedly challenging the so-called deep state. What does the deep state do? The deep state organizes coups against democratically elected socialist leaders in Latin America to steal their natural resources, installing far-right regimes, which is exactly what Donald Trump did in alliance with the US deep state with the support of billionaire capitalist oligarchs like Elon Musk. And what has been one of the main targets of the US deep state for years now? Venezuela's democratically elected socialist government. First, its president Hugo Chavez, and now the leftist president Nicolás Maduro. And in 2023, at a Republican Party rally, Donald Trump boasted that he backed a coup attempt against Venezuela and almost overthrew Venezuela's government. And he said that if they had succeeded, the US would have taken over Venezuela, a neo-colonial takeover, and got access to all of its oil. Here's this clip of Donald Trump saying the quiet part loud yet again.
Venezuela. How about we're buying oil from Venezuela? When I left, Venezuela was ready to collapse. We would have taken it over. We would have gotten all that oil. It would have been right next door.
Of course, Trump oversaw a coup attempt in Venezuela that started in 2019,
One
in
of
which
the worst
Trump
coups we've ever seen.
appointed a little-known right-wing opposition politician named Juan Guaido as the supposed president of Venezuela, despite
Remember
the
when we
fact
had to all play along? Canada was playing along. Oh, thank you, Mr. President, sir. This guy who has no following and no one recognizes it, and we had to pretend this guy was the president of Venezuela. That's funny.
that he never participated in a presidential election. He never got a single vote to be so-called president. And yet Trump said he's president. We recognize him as president. Trump stole billions of dollars of Venezuelan assets, and he told other countries around the world, he forced them to recognize this U.S. puppet as the fake so-called president. And then in 2022, in a CNN interview, Trump's neoconservative national security advisor, John Bolton.
If Trump has enemies in the deep state, that is why. Because he can't keep his big fucking mouth shut. It's not because he's like, represents some kind of a threat to their interests or to some ideological commitment. If he's a threat, it's because he keeps explicitly saying the evil things that U.S. imperialism is doing, rather than, you know, leaving all that unsaid and hiding it in this layer of like respectability and civility and all this human rights lingo, you know? That's what they don't like about him. And if he's a threat to them, that's why.
Who helped to oversee the coup attempt, he openly admitted that it was a coup attempt, and he boasted that he had experience organizing coup attempts. And it gets worse. Donald Trump's defense secretary, Mark Esper, who, by the way, had been a vice president of Raytheon, overseeing government relations. So he lobbied for one of the biggest arms manufacturers, and then Trump made him his defense secretary. I mean, there is no revolving door. The U.S. military-industrial complex is the U.S. government. Anyway, the point is that Trump appointed this Raytheon VP as his defense secretary, and Mark Esper wrote in his memoir that Trump had repeatedly, constantly asked if the U.S. could launch military attacks against Venezuela. Trump wanted to bomb and attack Venezuela to overthrow its democratically elected leftist president, Maduro. The year before the Trump-led coup attempt in Venezuela, the Trump administration also backed a very violent coup attempt against Nicaragua's democratically elected Sandinista government. Of course, the US government has been targeting the Sandinistas in Nicaragua ever since the 1980s, backing the Contra death squads. The CIA, the deep state, was indispensable in creating the Contra death squads and in trying to use them to overthrow the Sandinista government in Nicaragua. And in 2018, they tried the same thing, and it was Trump who oversaw this. And by the way, one of the deep state operatives who oversaw the Iran-Contra scandal, Elliot Abrams, a notorious neoconservative war criminal, Donald Trump appointed Elliot Abrams as his Iran envoy in order to try to orchestrate regime change.
We should, it's been a while since I've been able to do one of these movie nights, though, Dan. I think we got to do a Munich movie night. I think it would be really interesting.
In Iran to overthrow the Iranian government. And as if that weren't enough, by the way, Joe Biden also appointed this notorious war criminal, Elliot Abrams, on a bipartisan public diplomacy commission. So we saw Elliot Abrams helped oversee the Iran-Contra scandal in the Reagan administration. He was literally convicted of a felony.
Dan, I think Ben's allowed because he's 100% fluent in Spanish. So I think he's allowed.
He lied to the government. He was a literal felon, a literal criminal. And then Donald Trump brought him back. Actually, George Bush brought him back as well to help oversee the illegal invasion of Iraq. Then Donald Trump brought him back to oversee another coup attempt in Nicaragua, a coup attempt in Venezuela, and a coup attempt in Iran. And then Joe Biden brought back the same war criminal. I mean, this shows how all US presidents are war criminals. But finally, I would be remiss if I didn't mention one of the top targets of the US deep state for decades, which has been Cuba's revolutionary socialist government. Cuba has been under an illegal US blockade for over 60 years, and the CIA has organized constant, never-ending coup attempts, regime change operations. The CIA invaded Cuba in the Bay of Pigs operation. They have never allowed Cuba and the Cuban people to breathe for 1 minute ever since Fidel Castro overthrew a US-backed right-wing puppet dictator, Batista, in 1959. And Donald Trump continued this deep state war on Cuba by waging a brutal economic war on Cuba. Trump massively expanded the already suffocating sanctions and blockade on Cuba, and he added Cuba to a bunch of ridiculous blacklists that have nothing to do
Biden
with reality.
Not undone,
and now, as Trump is campaigning for president in 2024, he is openly calling for regime change, saying, look, in Miami, if you all vote for me, I'm going to do everything I can to try to overthrow the Cuban government, which has been one of the top targets of the deep state for decades. Because once again, Donald Trump is not an enemy of the deep state. He is a loyal ally of the US deep state, of the CIA, of the Pentagon, of big capital on Wall Street. And while we're talking about the alleged assassination attempt against Trump and the deep state and the CIA and Cuba, let's not forget that the CIA and other US government agencies attempted to assassinate Cuba's revolutionary leader, Fidel Castro, at least 638 times. This is according to official declassified US government records. 638 times, and they failed.
Legend.
But now we see these allegations of an alleged assassination attempt against Trump, and his supporters claiming that the deep state is after Trump. It's complete nonsense in every single way. Donald Trump has been a loyal ally of the deep state, a warmonger, an imperialist, a neocolonialist in Latin America. He appointed the CIA director, Mike Pompeo, as his Secretary of State. And what does the deep state ultimately serve? It serves Wall Street. It serves big capitalists, billionaire oligarchs like Trump, who himself is a billionaire oligarch. And when Trump was president, he cut taxes on rich people just like him. And now we saw that under Trump, taxes on the rich fell to a lower tax rate than on working class Americans. Literally, Trump taxed poor people more than he taxed the rich. And now, as Trump is campaigning for a second term as president, he is pledging more tax breaks, not only on the rich, but he also wants to cut taxes on big corporations. At a lavish $50 million fundraising party in April, Trump told his billionaire backers that he's going to continue cutting taxes on them. Basically, he's saying, look, fellow billionaires, fund my campaign, which is legal bribery. Give me more and more money, get me elected, and
Yeah, Mac, I couldn't agree more. You should stop watching that shit because it's completely uninformed bullshit. Anyone that promotes this idea that Trump has like good foreign policy views or he's better than Democrats, completely ahistorical, ignorant bullshit. You know? Just based in nothing but hopes and dreams. And is not even funny, like Ledane's pointing out in the first place. Yes, stop watching that shit. It sucks.
I will cut billions of dollars of taxes. So you give me a few $1 million and you will save billions of dollars. This is the legal bribery in the U.S. so-called democracy, which we all know is not a democracy. It's actually a plutocracy in which capitalist oligarchs control everything. And now, like Trump, these billionaires, they literally are directly running the government. As Bloomberg put it, Wall Street billionaires are rushing to back Trump and fund his campaign.
I'm sure Jimmy Dore is going to be doing all kinds of commentary about J.D. Vance and his how he's going to be some kind of populist, economic populist, and he wants peace in Ukraine, not like those Democrats. Fucking dumbass.
But the point to take away here as I conclude is that Trump is not in any way a so-called threat to the deep state. He is a war criminal and an imperialist, just like the presidents who came before him, whether it's Reagan or Clinton or Bush or Obama or Biden today. The vast majority of their foreign policy is the same. There is a bipartisan consensus in Washington in support of war, in support of empire, and in support of Wall Street, because ultimately, all of these U.S. wars and U.S. imperialism exist to serve the interests of capitalist oligarchs on Wall Street. And Donald Trump himself is part of that capitalist oligarchy as a billionaire. He sometimes uses so-called populist rhetoric, but his policies do not benefit average working people. His policies, just like those of Reagan and Clinton and Bush and Obama and Biden today, all of their policies serve the capitalist oligarchy on Wall Street and the military-industrial complex at the expense of average working people in the U.S. and around the world. On that note, I'm going to conclude. I am Ben Norton, the editor-in-chief of Geopolitical Economy Report. I want to invite everyone to please like and subscribe. Please share this.
Please do make sure you give the video a like. That was another excellent video from Ben Norton, and timely because this is like the exact discussion we were having today, which I knew would be coming up with some of these like J.D. Vance comments that I saw being passed around. Please do support the work that he does. And if you can, folks, support the work that I do right here on twitch.tv. It's my second day back, and oh boy, howdy, would it be great to get to the sub goal again. 12 subs away. I know it can be done. I know we can do it. 12 measly little subs to get to the goal. So if you can, folks, please subscribe to TRRS. Help support the work that I do on here.
On me. You're going to have good old Rob to talk you through all this.
Get to the sub goal chat.
Netlocked, thanks for the 44 months. One of the longest subscribers there, 44 months. It's ridiculous.
Count on me. You're going to have good old Rob to talk you through all this.
Plunger Man,
welcome back, Cotter.
Thanks for the 33 months resub at tier 2. Thank you, Plunger Man. A measly 10 subs to go. And that one brave and generous chatter could trigger a very cool 10 sub alert and get to the sub goal. It's so very, very close. It's so very, very close to get there. It's not too late to support this program and join Twitch's only two-dimensional triangle-shaped friendship access and trickle-down clout tiered reward system. What was the stream like when Rob started? Was it a lot different? It was pretty different. The set was different. The commentary has been the same. I think the main commentary, I started doing this show regularly, this iteration of TRRS at the last election. Basically, I started
you can count on me. You're gonna have good old
like a couple
Rob
weeks
to,
before
talk
the
you
election,
through
and then
all
I did
this.
an election
I
special,
still
and
haven't
then
received a friend. Do I need to verify my address?
yeah, GG Allen Dulles, thanks for the 31 months of Tier 1. You do need to verify the address and go ahead and send over the credit card info as well and the social insurance. And once we have that info, then we can get to work on matching you with your friend. Yeah. When he actually started streaming before the show existed, it was all games on the PlayStation. I did a couple
You
of
can
streams.
count on me. You're gonna have good old Rob to talk you through all this.
I did a couple. It's funny actually because like I remembered in like 2019 doing a stream on my shitty laptop and making fun of Biden's cognitive decline in like 2019. Spell check, thanks for the 28 months of Tier 1. Thank you very much for that. But yeah, I think the main, so he's started basically doing it. The hair has changed. The facial hair has gone through a lot of iterations. My overall look has gone through a number of iterations. But I started it in the last election, and honestly, it's mostly the same. Like, chat can back me up on this. It's been a lot of talk about the new Cold War, the decline of Western hegemony, foreign policy. I mean, this is stuff we've been talking about it 4 years now. And in fact, we were talking about it, I think, a lot significantly prior to some of the Johnny-come-latelys that now spend their time talking about this today. The new Cold War and this kind of stuff. We were ahead of the game on a lot of this stuff. Ukraine, a lot of this stuff. You want to look at some classic clips? Even more faith in the look at this. Wow. Oh boy, have I come a long way. Even more faith in the process of what's possible through electoral politics, which is going to lead a whole lot of people to start thinking about other ways possibly that they can institute social and political change and economic change. And won't get too much more into the details of that. I believe it's a violation of Twitch's terms of service. And I don't want to. Wow. It's a new thing. Wow. Who's this naive young man? It's probably going to be another liberal government, possibly a minority, but maybe even just a liberal majority in this coming election. And like I said, that wouldn't be the worst case scenario, but it would still not be great. Were you ever a liberal? I haven't been a liberal for some time. I'll say that. I definitely. We've all been on a journey. No one's born a person with perfect politics. It's been a journey for me as long as I've been really obsessed with this stuff, to kill the liberal inside your brain, metaphorically speaking, of course. a very far right party now, the People's Party of Canada, led by this guy Maxime Bernier. There's a good chance they're going to pick up a bunch of seats. Oh, look at that.
Anything good happening in
Wow,
Canada?
look at that. No, not really. This election is awful. It's not as awful, and
It'd be nice to get another
mercifully much
invite.
shorter than the United States one.
It'd be
But
nice to get
I'm not
another
enjoying
invite one of these
Yeah.
days. It really
But
is
it-
bad. What is this lighting? It's really not good. It is really no wonder I don't get invited to come back on there. My setup was really no good at all. Again, if this ghoul on again.
The only thing that I am enjoying is getting to explain to people and getting a lot of more people in Canada and around the world to start grasping what I think is a really important truth, which is that Canada is a fake country that sucks ass.
Wow. And here's when I started doing this.
How much I love capitalism and Jeff Bezos.
You can count on me. You're gonna have good old
Yep.
Rob to talk.
That's
you
right.
through
Well,
all
the whole
this.
the whole left wing grift thing is not really working out. I think if I had gotten an opportunity to think about that more ahead of time, it seems so. If you're like a capitalist or a right wing guy, it's so fucking easy to just be like, yeah. I love billionaires. You know what I love? Oil companies, and they'll just like.
Glass by Glenn. Thanks for the 2 months of Prime 5 minutes ago. Thank you, Glenn. And thank you, Diego, as well, for another gifted sub. Thank you.
A high amount. Like
Yeah.
compared to, I mean,
Look at
I
my
know
panel.
obviously
What a
there's
panel
lot
I
of
had
people on the
here.
left that are just like, look, I can never vote for somebody that sponsored the '94 crime bill and voted for the Iraq War,
And was credibly accused of sexual assault as well.
Honestly, those are all very valid reasons to recuse yourself.
Yes.
Well, and that's the thing I've been kind of trying to hammer home on like the various podcasting and things that I've been doing, which is that even if you are some random Bernie and
We've come a long way, folks. We've come a long way. We're heading into season 5. I think. Can you believe that? We're heading into season 5 in October. After the election. We're going to do an election special again, and then we're going to see how it goes. That's right. I tried to fix myself up for the election special there. The more I keep going, the more colorful the content becomes. It's taken me time to figure this shit out. Only 6 subs to go, chat. Only 6 subs to go. You don't think I deserve to get to the sub goal? I've been busting my ass on here 4 years doing this show, bringing together this community, giving you the commentary and the analysis that you know and love for 4 years of my life. And that's not worth a measly little 6 subs to you, chat. That's not worth a measly little 6 subs. Wow. God, my lighting on that Hassan interview is so bad. Oh my God. That was really not good. Now I'm a pro streamer. Look at me.
I haven't talked enough about Harbinger, but that's launching very soon. The podcast network, of course, that I've been working on over the last couple of months. My show, 49th Parallel, is part of that. Alberta Advantage. It's a really like an unbeatable lineup.
I feel like my voice has changed. Is that
like
possible?
Leftist podcast content. I'm really looking forward to that.
I feel like I
launching.
sound different.
Muslim communist, Kenyan sleeper agent, which is so fucking ridiculous. But then you look at the history of his mom and like one of her ex-husbands who like played a big part of like in like violently subduing communist movements in Indonesia, I believe.
Have good old Rob to
and how basically he's been in
49th Parahell? More like 49th Parasmell.
What? What? This is outrageous. Thank you, Marty, for the 39 months, Tier 1. I appreciate it. The graphics have really improved. Yeah, absolutely. Marty, that was outrageous. Anon, thank you for the 2 subs. Very kind of you, Anon. Thank you. Very cool. How can Rob recover from such a burn? I have to give Marty my account now. Marty now owns this account thanks to that. Folks, we're a mere 3 subs away. We're a mere 3 subs away from the goal. 49th Merrill has a little moon icon on my podcast tab. I brought it back, and then I've not been good at keeping it going. And in fact, I did 2 interviews that I meant to make into episodes and did not do that. Which is to my great shame. Op to like install like a an anti-socialist CIA op. Isn't thing. Yeah, you want terrorists to vote? That's right, Goat said. Yeah, Bernie Sanders, can you believe he wants the Boston bomber to vote? Disgusting. Just completely taking this arbitrary bullshit and trying to drum up drama about it. And with Corbyn, it was the nuke thing. I mean, in addition to the whole anti-Semitism part. But it was like, can you believe that Jeremy Crombin refuses? Oh man, this is one of the only clips from January 6th.
And just like the radical left tries to blacklist you on social media, every time I put out a tweet, that's even if it's totally correct, I get a flag.
It is concerning the amount of people that are there right now. Absolutely. Millions of people watching this right now believe every single word that he's saying.
They don't let the message get out.
That's not good.
But I've had many people say, I can't get on your Twitter. I don't care about Twitter. Twitter's bad news. They're all bad news. But you know what?
Yeah, I never see those Trump tweets. I always have a hard time finding those. He's shadow banned.
They are really, if you're a conservative.
Trump is being shadow banned. I never see his tweets.
I guess they call it shadow ban, right? Shadow ban. Shadow ban you. And it should be illegal.
This is the speech before. This is how he got these guys riled up to go overthrow the U.S. government. He's leading into all their paranoid feelings about being shadow banned so their grandkids can't see their posts on Facebook. This is how he got these people riled up to go get themselves fucking killed and thrown in jail. Pretty incredible. Pretty incredible stuff. I must say, I do really like my look better. I think my look has improved a lot. I really do. Even though I still do dress like that often, but I think we're looking way better since that time. That's autumn, Rob. That's true. Well, folks, it's time for me to say goodbye. I'm think I'm going to take a nap. Honestly, I'm still kind of easing my way back into doing this show full time. But I'm here, right? I'm here doing this every day. For the time being. Will that change? I don't know. Maybe. Maybe possibly it's at some point. We don't know. We don't know. But oh boy, howdy, would it not be fantastic to get to those last 3 subs before saying goodbye? Can you imagine how cool that would be? For a brave hero to come through with those last final 3 subs to go to get to the goal. I'm sure there's no one in the chat that brave and heroic, though. You know, it's okay. Lodane, I've been working, okay? I am working. I'm working for the weekend. Everybody's working for the weekend.
You can count on me.
Everybody
You're gonna have
needs
good
a
old
new
Rob to talk us through all
romance.
this.
DJ Dub D, thanks for the gifted sub as well. Thank you. Thank you for that. Very cool. Man, I was really traumatized by my lighting on that Hassan chat. Dan, hello, thank you. Dan, thank you for the gifted sub. Did I miss the stream? Yeah, kinda. You kinda did. Oh my goodness, Dan, there we go. The brave hero emerges. The hero rises. Thank you, Dan. Very, very kind of you. Very, very kind of you. We did it. You couldn't control the lighting. No, I absolutely could. I was in my own home. I just did not know what I was doing. Okay. Lodane. Some people look around the world. Fuck. Some people think the world's had enough of silly love songs. I look around me and I see it isn't so. Oh no. Some people want to rid the world of silly love songs. What's wrong with that? I'd like to know. I actually have 70s McCartney hair as well. Here I go again. I love you. I love you. It is a great written pop song. Of course it is. That McCartney bass line, it's so sick. Paul's the man. See you folks tomorrow.